All right. Welcome back to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. We are back for another episode. Yes. What's good, everybody? God is the greatest. All right. It is currently 2:11 a.m. and today's date is the 28th of August 2025. How are we doing? Some of you are at work. Some of you are laying down on your bed. Some of you are on the couch. And some of you are just, who knows? Okay. Who knows? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another one. All right. Like I always say, America, in my opinion, is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Everybody has their own opinion. So you might not think that is true, but to me, that is absolutely true. And God made it so, in my opinion. And of course, God is the greatest. Okay. I am blessed to be in the United States. If you're watching right now and you are in the United States, I believe that you are blessed to be watching from the United States. Okay. Now, with that being said, a lot has been going on. Yesterday, we streamed the cabinet meeting between the commander in chief, the 45th, now the 47th president of the United States, and also his cabinet members. Everybody kind of gave us a briefing on what they're doing, what they've accomplished, and that is the transparency that most Americans who voted for, well, every American who voted for Donald Trump, that is what they voted for. Uh, a government for the people, okay, by the people. So something that is transparent. All right. Donald Trump has never done any cabinet meeting that long ever. Probably one of the longest interview or appearance he's had talking and briefing with his cabinet members to the United States, to the people of the United States. All right. But today we're gonna check out what we call the Trump effect, which is, as we all know, okay, so I just got a alert on my phone. The commander in chief. This is 2:13. I definitely have the same time with Washington D.C. And this guy just posted on Truth Social. It says it's posting about Westmore. It says Westmore apologizes for honest mistakes in claiming a Bronze Star. It says, but is that the end of the political career? He was very disrespectful to the office of the president. Look, this man does not sleep. He doesn't go to sleep. He does not go to sleep. Well, that's why I voted for him. That's why. That is why he got my vote. Okay. This is what I expect from the president of the United States. No sleeping. Okay. No sleeping. You need to stay awake for the millions and millions of people who voted for you. Anyway, back to the Trump effect. Cracker Barrel, okay, Cracker Barrel changed their logo. Okay, remember we spoke about, well, it really doesn't matter if you change your logo or not. And some people in the chat said, well, if it wasn't broken, why would you fix it? And I was like, you know what? Who cares? But apparently, a lot of people cared about the logo and the way they've changed their seating area and all that stuff. So people are like, yo, you have to change the seating area back to what it was. All right, we get it. You've changed the logo. Okay. Now change the inside. All right. So, but the fact that they changed their logo back to what it was, that is most definitely the Trump effect. No more woke, ladies and gentlemen. No more woke. All right, here we go. We're going to check out Gutfeld firstly, and then every other thing goes. All right. Everything goes tonight. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kat Timpf in for Greg on this special edition of Gutfeld. Let's get right into some jokes. Donald Trump blasted Seth Meyers, calling him one of the least talented late-night television hosts out there. I guess that makes one thing clear. He's never seen Fox News Saturday Night with Jimmy Fallon.
Wow. No one's seen it.
According to the New York Times, Trump now has gay conservatives flocking to D.C., with one gay man comparing him to a drag queen. That's not fair. Trump wears less makeup. Burning Man's infamous orgy dome, where festival goers have unbridled sex, was destroyed by a massive windstorm. Well, better luck next year, Mr. Kudlow. A super PAC raised more than $1 million for Andrew Cuomo's mayoral campaign last week. Cuomo was so excited, he grabbed his own ass. A green dildo was thrown on the field during a game between the Minnesota Vikings and Tennessee Titans. The fan who tossed it said he was hoping to free up the tight end. And firefighters in England rescued a cow that had sank neck deep in a 10-foot pit of mud. The cow was then returned home. Oh. You thought it was going to be The View, didn't you? No, that's Greg's thing. All right, moving on. So, according to a report, Vanity Fair's new editor is interested in putting First Lady Melania Trump on its cover. And the magazine's staff is totally fine with it. Just kidding. They're outraged and ready to quit. One unnamed editor even whined to the Daily Mail saying, "I will walk out the door and half my staff will follow me. We are not going to normalize this despot and his wife. We're just not going to do it. We're going to stand for what's right." Now, who knows if they'll follow through and leave? Another employee said they doubt people would quit a prestigious job over it, or even a job at Vanity Fair. Also, would they really have the balls to quit if they didn't even give their name to the reporter? They didn't even say their name was Spartacus. Missing a perfect opportunity for a movie reference that I don't get at all because it wasn't in Happy Gilmore. The truth is, threatening to quit over something like this is dumb. Like when Greg's contract talks stalled over his demand for a second helicopter. More than 77 million Americans voted for Trump. Sure, some of them got lost on the way to the polls. But you can't shut them out and pretend they don't exist. And it's not like the magazine's publisher, Condé Nast, has shied away from this before. Melania did appear on the cover of Vanity Fair Mexico in 2017. Michelle Obama appeared on Vogue's cover 3 times while she was First Lady, and Jill Biden was on 2 during Joe's term. And Doug Emhoff, he was on the cover of Immoral Housekeeping. The bottom line, refusing to work with people with whom you disagree is ridiculous. And it's a lesson these magazine staffers need to learn because people everywhere are starting to realize it. Have you noticed some left-leaning outlets are more welcoming towards conservatives now? I don't know if you guys heard, but Greg was on The Tonight Show. He sent an email earlier today saying I couldn't host if I didn't mention that. Anyway, Greg might be right when he says this is evidence of the culture shifting towards the right. But it could be a shift not away from the left or even toward the right, but towards a culture that doesn't decide the value of a person based on politics. We used to call it being an American. So, thank you. So, it's not a lot to ask of these Vanity Fair staffers to put up with seeing a cover of a person they don't like. I don't love every single guest that's ever appeared on this channel. Sometimes I even do shows with them.
I've been saying it for years.
But have Having to deal with stuff at work that you don't like isn't unique to media. It's literally what a job is. I'm sure all of you at home have that one dude or chick you absolutely can't stand. If you don't, bad news. You work from home and that person is you. So, if you work at Vanity Fair and think that Trump and Melania are awful, that's fine. No one is expecting you to change your mind. But what you shouldn't expect is for the entire trajectory of the magazine to revolve around you and your opinion. That's not compassion. That's self-obsession. You should want to hear other people's opinions because sometimes they make valid points. No one's always right, except for me when I'm arguing with my husband. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He gets his but someone else did. They wanted to know, Jamie, you've had lots of people quit on you in your life. So how do you feel about this when you hear about Vanity staffers threatening to quit?
Yeah, so I would say they gotta have her on the cover. It's gonna sell the most copies maybe ever. And I think if Melania gets to be on Vanity Fair, I think that Michelle Obama should get to be on Men's Health. I think... I would like to try out the First Lady Boy shoulder workout. Do you know I felt like it was not a good threat? I feel like it wasn't a good threat when she was like, I feel like if you're gonna quit and you're like, we're all leaving if you do this. I feel like when she was like, half of us are leaving if you do this. I don't think it's enough of a threat. You're like, if you put her on the cover, a portion of us are out of here. A third of us are out of here, possibly a half if Bob agrees, but he kind of wants to stay. You will be left with only a handful of very qualified people that could totally do our jobs. I think they got to do this cover. I think it sells more than any issue.
Yeah, Michelle, do you think these people will actually leave?
They remind me of the people who say, if Trump gets elected, I'm leaving the country. And a couple of them did, to their credit, right? But no, I want to take one quick second to just say I just came in from Minnesota, sending all my love to my peeps in Minneapolis after today. And that's that. So these people that do that, they called Trump a despot. They said, we're not going to normalize this despot. I looked up the definition of despot.
Good, because I wanted to know.
I'll tell you. Tyrus, it's a ruler or other person who holds absolute power and typically one who exercises it in a cruel or oppressive way. So
I want to be a despot.
I've heard you can be.
Yes.
But anyway, no, so he's not a despot, right? I know this hyperbole continues and it's such a ridiculous thing. So he's not a despot. And she speaks 6 languages. She's quite an accomplished woman. She is a mother. She's stunning. And I'm with you, Jamie. They put her on the cover. They sell a ton of copies. Let's not just discount that he can say half of my staff's going to follow me. Well, half of the country and more voted for this guy. So put his wife on the cover.
I agree. Yeah.
Jamie?
I agree. And for anybody, I just looked up hyperbole. It means exaggeration.
Good looking out. Good looking out. I mean, Tom, Melania herself said, I think it was, I believe, last year, she doesn't really care if she's on covers or not. There are more important things. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think she said, I don't care. I care not. I care not about cover. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Greg's helicopter.
Yeah,
you always know
second helicopter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He wants to, but you always know it's Greg's helicopter because when it's flying over, you see a kid with the controls. Yeah, this is ridiculous. I think this would be, they should definitely put her on the cover, not just because it will increase circulation, but you'll have 100 of those people quit. I looked it up. There's like 650 employees. Really? I'm sure they can cut that down to like 200. So put her on the cover, 100 people quit, then put Elon on there, another 150 people quit. Follow it up, put Trump on there, 200 people quit. You can then run the thing with 200 people.
Yeah.
You've doged the whole magazine.
There's really 650 people?
Yes.
That's shocking to me, Tyrus.
I'm not shocked by this at all. And the First Lady took the high road. You know, good for her. It's not really my thing. I think it's arrogant when and an anonymous person, but he outed himself because he's clearly a manager or of some sort because he said he had a staff.
Yeah.
So half my staff will walk out. So go ahead. And then he went further to say, if I have to go working at Trader Joe's and bag the groceries, then so be it. Sir, what gives you the right to besmirch Trader Joe's? What is going on? Cracker Barrel, Trader Joe's. Everybody is mad at white places people shop. I don't understand why they keep attacking these white-based places. Trader Joe's is great. It's a great place to go get like Chinese food if you don't want to eat actual Chinese food. They had the little glass apple juice things when I was a kid. That was a big deal. That was a huge thing if your mom would trust you with glass. I never got it, but I always wanted it. But I'm just tired of these people who make these stupid. If I would have read that, I would have fired somebody and his staff, because his staff would be like, that guy, I don't even like him. Like, this ain't Jerry Maguire. Who's going with me? Like, no, it's a magazine job. You're already holding on by the string of your teeth as it is.
Jerry Maguire was not a character in Happy Gilmore, so I don't.
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
I also don't know who that is. But Tom, right, you have to be able to work with people you disagree with.
Yeah, and the thing is, they all, I remember when Bush was president, they all said he was evil. I remember worst president ever, and they, and they didn't want to normalize the Bush presidency. But now Bush is hanging out with Obama, and I think Bush's daughter's on it. Isn't she on like Good Morning America or something?
Today's Show.
Yeah, they're all part of the establishment. They're going to forget about all this. They think that, Trump is president now, so he's the most evil thing. I remember in the 80s when Reagan was evil.
Yes.
But even though Reagan and the first George Bush were evil to those people, they never took it out on the wives. Nancy Reagan was on the cover of Time magazine. Barbara Bush was on the cover of Time magazine. So they never did it with the wives. Now they are, because they have no class.
Facts. No class. Wow, I just learned something tonight. The First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, she speaks 6 languages. Whoa. I didn't know that. I did not know that. 6 languages. Wow. Here we go. Hannity. Welcome, everybody. Let's have fun.
Our hearts, they are heavy and they are troubled tonight after a horrific shooting in Minneapolis this morning. After a shooter opened fire on a Catholic elementary school while children were attending a mass to celebrate the start of the school year. Now, according to police, the shooter was dressed in black, wearing a mask, and shot through stained glass windows. Multiple children are now dead, and police say that the shooter took his own life. The FBI Director Kash Patel announcing on X this afternoon the suspect has been identified as Robin Westman, a male born as Robert Westman, and that the FBI is now investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism targeting Catholics. Shortly thereafter, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed more disturbing details about the suspected shooter, saying he was a man claiming to be transgender and revealing that he had writings on his rifle magazines that read, quote, "For the children, where is your God?" and "Kill Donald Trump." Now, following the horrific shooting, President Trump did post on Truth Social saying that he has been briefed on the shooting, asked everyone to join him in praying for the victims. Now, the White House later issued a proclamation honoring the victims, ordering flags to be flown at half-staff at all government facilities all across the country and U.S. outposts across the world until sunset on Sunday. But this horrific act of violence during the first week of school only underscores the need for more law and order and safety and security all around the country. This is something that we have been debating for weeks, something that President Trump now has put in the forefront of his agenda over the past several weeks, with a lot of opposition on the left, sending in the National Guard troop, for example, to clean up crime in D.C. Think of this. Our capital, Washington, D.C., of all the capitals around the world, we're number one in terms of the homicide rate. And that means of any other country on earth. How could that happen? Also, the president warning other blue cities that he may do the same there to keep people safe and secure. How do you pursue happiness? It is a prerequisite for happiness to have law and order and safety and security. But once again, Democrats, they can't help themselves, wasting zero time, rushing to judgment and politicizing this tragedy before even having the full story. Former Biden White House press secretary Circleback Jen Psaki trying to pin the blame on Donald Trump with a bizarre tweet citing his efforts to crack down on crime in D.C., which, by the way, for the record, Circleback, he has been enormously successful in doing. She wrote, quote, when kids are getting shot in their pews at a Catholic school mass and your crime plan is to have National Guard put mulch down around D.C., maybe rethink your strategy. No, they've been stopping the murder rate, the homicide. We went 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks without a single murder. They usually have 3.6 a week. Maybe somebody at MSDNC can open a book, learn something about AI, do a little bit of research instead of just peddling lies and conspiracy theories. What about the dozens of the school shootings that have taken place, by the way, when Circleback Psaki was press secretary? Did Biden do anything to prevent those? And then, of course, you got, Gavin Nutty Newsom. Can't help himself, posting on X, as he's been doing nonstop for the last several weeks now, writing, quote, we can't even make it through the first week of school without mass shootings, and the GOP will continue to do absolutely nothing while our kids are being gunned down. This is sick. Wait a minute. These are the same people that supported 12 to 20 million, we don't know the actual number, unvetted, illegal immigrants from over 200 countries, the people that they let into our country, known terrorists, and then harbored them with their sanctuary city and state policies like out in the United Socialist Utopia of California, spending tens and tens of billions of dollars on illegal immigrants for health care, education, criminal justice. Look at who they are. These are the same people that have been protecting these people from the police and trying to stand in the way of ICE agents doing their job. The same people that support defund, dismantle, no bail. Let's reimagine the police madness and send in social workers. The same people that, have turned this guy, alleged the MS-13 gang member and alleged wife beater by his own wife, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They are his biggest champion. This is the party of Abrego Garcia. The same people fighting against deportation, the same people fighting for amnesty, the same people fighting against Donald Trump's efforts to make D.C. safe again. Now, they weren't the only two, by the way. More Democrats, more allies in the legacy media mob took to the airwaves today, of course, to politicize this tragedy in a disgusting but yet predictable way, mocking people offering their prayers because the shooting happened in a church. Take a look.
All the work we've done to ban these automatic rifles and to do something when it comes to the background checks and everything, and we keep getting thwarted.
And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church.
He's expressing something that I know you feel and most people feel, which is a combination of sadness, but raw rage. Forget about thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying when they were murdered through a church window. It's
unbelievable.
So as Democrats, is there any sense that they can take a moment, a horrific moment like this, kids sitting in pews, literally getting shot to death, and try to do something to help it from stopping again, particularly as it comes to assault weapons?
So I wouldn't expect a lot to change here. I think we see this pattern.
This is madness. This is insane. They are the party of defund, dismantle, no bail laws, reimagine the police. They are the party of sanctuary states and cities and amnesty. And here's the saddest part. School shootings are preventable. And simple, basic, common sense actions can mitigate these tragedies. If we have the desire to stop school shootings, this is the first thing you should do. Every school in the country should have a metal detector. You have them at airports. You have them when you're around elected politicians. By the way, they have armed guards around them. You have to control the entry of kids and the perimeter around every school. And by the way I would do it, I would hire retired military, trained law enforcement, retired, with concealed carries. They should be in every school in the country, along with metal detectors, along with a secure perimeter. Now, for these people that you hire, you could even do it and not pay them. What do you mean? Hannity, everyone's going to work for free? No, offer them tax incentives if they are willing to volunteer a certain number of hours a week. I believe these common sense practices would help mitigate these horrific shootings, probably put an end to it. And by the way, that means they pay no local taxes, no state taxes, no federal taxes. And if they put in enough hours, how about no estate tax if they pass away and they get to do what they want with the money that they've already paid taxes on? And, you know, the left's rush to immediately blame Republicans, race to blame guns for every tragedy. It's sad, but it's pathetic, but it's predictable. Hey, Sean.
Oh my goodness. So I saw earlier on that this person was trans and they hated the president of the United States, and they had the president's name on the magazine and stuff like that. But it's like, that's just, it's not about them being trans. It's more of, you know, being sick up here. That's the main issue. It's not, oh, they're trans. No, it's more like, you know, when you're sick up here, it's like, I don't know, man. So many people need help. And now people have lost their lives. Kids have lost their lives based off of a sick human being. Tragedy. All right, here we go. Jesse.
Fox News alert, tragedy in Minneapolis after a shooter opened fire during a morning mass at a Catholic grammar school. 2 children killed, 8 and 10 years old, and 17 others were rushed to the hospital. 14 of them were children, but police say they're all expected to make it, thankfully. K-8 students were marking the first week of school when bullets started blasting through the windows of the church.
During the mass, a gunman approached on the outside on the side of the building and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children.
Students were ducking for cover as round after round pierced through the pews. One 10-year-old said his friend saved his life.
We just got into mass, and it was like 3 minutes after. It was very scary. It was like my friend got shot in the back. He was laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
But that came from during this?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You seem pretty put together here, but it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I'm just like confused kind of because I never thought it would happen.
This should never have happened.
Yeah, this is my thing, man. When you start involving kids, I can't take it because, come on, man. These are kids. Man.
But how did it? The shooter was identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. Robin changed his name from Robert back in 2019 when he was a minor. His mother submitted the name change on his behalf. The court documents say the minor child identifies as female and wanted her name to reflect the identification. So Robert changes his name to Robin and mows down pews of kids at a Catholic school church and then offs himself in the parking lot. And it wasn't just a random church. His mother used to work there. CNN reports Westman actually graduated from there in 2017. And this morning, he showed up with a rifle, shotgun, and pistol. Hours before the shooting, Westman posted a 20-minute video where he paged through a manifesto, described himself as severely depressed and suicidal. He fantasized about the Sandy Hook massacre and said he loves to see kids get shot. The morning shooting was obviously premeditated because there was a drawing of the floor plans in his notebook. The video also shows Jesus' face as target practice. Westman wrote things on his weapons, such as, "Where is your God? Israel must fall. Nuke India. Suck on this. And kill Donald Trump."
Oh, man.
The FBI is investigating this as an act of domestic terror and a hate crime targeting Catholics. But police say they don't know anything.
We don't have a motive at this time. Obviously, we're open to any possibilities at all, but we don't have a motive.
The media says the motive doesn't matter. It's the gun's fault.
I think it's either like you have to be honest and say what will actually work, which is what nobody wants to hear, which is that there are just simply way too many firearms and they're way too accessible. And even if
they're too powerful?
And they're too powerful. Even handguns, too.
So a suicidal transgender who hates Trump's Christians and Jews shoots up kids at a Catholic school, and the media wants to take away your handgun. So how are we supposed to protect ourselves from trans shooters? The media is bad at pattern recognition. We aren't. Just 2 years ago, another trans 20-something walked into a Christian school in Nashville with a rifle and shot 3 kids and 3 adults. They buried the manifesto and locked down the case. We've seen trans shootings in Colorado and in Maryland. They even shot up an ICE facility in Texas. And it seems like half of Antifa's trans. A couple of they-thems just got popped for firebombing Teslas. The mayor of Minneapolis says you can't say that.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
I don't hate anyone who thinks they're trans. I feel sorry for them. But statistically, the trans population has been prone to violence. That's not villainizing, that's reality. And if you can't recognize reality, you're in danger. We love the American people, especially American children. And if they're troubled and believe they're somehow a girl trapped in a boy's body, we want to get them help. We don't want to give them hormones and operate on them.
Right.
Society shouldn't be trying to produce more trans kids. We shouldn't be encouraging an emotional disorder or whatever this is. And doctors should stop profiting from it. Great Britain ended child sex change surgeries. They said it's barbaric, and they're right. And politicians should stop elevating the trans issue like it's the civil rights struggle of the 21st century. You see it all over Minneapolis.
Minneapolis will continue to be a safe haven for our trans community.
For being a safe haven for transgender individuals.
We have sued them for gender-affirming care. Yes, we are not going to scapegoat our transgender community.
When our children tell us who they are, it is our job as grown-ups to listen and to believe them.
So when your 9-year-old tells you he's a horse, do you let him sleep out in the barn and eat hay? What are we doing here? Just a few years ago, the psychiatric community classified transgenderism as a mental illness. Then doctors went woke and removed it as a condition, and now millions of young Americans are identifying themselves as trans and getting high fives. When someone has an illness, we should treat it instead of affirm it. We don't celebrate schizophrenia. We don't encourage depression. Teenagers are confused. Sometimes these things are just a phase. And if they're not, all right, then a grown man can wear a dress. If he wants to do that in America, he has that right. We're a pretty darn tolerant society. But the left's weaponizing trans kids and turning them into culture warriors. And they've been turned loose against the church, schools, and Trump. You see it, I see it. The trans Klan has a militant wing, and it's out for blood. They're taking lives, defiling churches, and freaking everybody out. And some politicians are doing more to protect shooters like Westman than soft targets like schools. In 2023, private schools in Minnesota begged Governor Walz to fund more school safety. They told him it was an urgent and critical need. Minnesota had an $18 billion budget surplus, but the governor didn't do it. Instead, he turned Minnesota into a trans sanctuary, and his attorney general, Keith Ellison, sued Trump so they can keep castrating little boys. Tim Walz failed. Our leaders keep failing us. They failed us during COVID, on trade, on immigration. They say they care about kids, but they locked them down and oversaw an obesity and chronic disease epidemic. And now there's a growing trans epidemic, and they won't even admit it, just like crime. They created a crisis and then lie about it and blame you for not being compassionate. But their fake compassion is getting people killed.
And that's facts.
Even handguns, too.
So a suicidal transgender who hates Trump's...
And they're too powerful. Even handguns, too.
And
So a suicidal transgender...
This is just wild because back in the days, in the 70s, 80s, even the 90s, how many trans did you know? Matter of fact, how many LGBT community members did you know? I'm not saying, you could be whatever you want as long as you are an adult, okay? Leave the kids out of it, all right? Just leave the kids and let the kids be kids. Go to the park, play, jump around, get dirty, do what you want to do, have fun. But leave the kids out of it. Now, in 2025, everybody knows someone in the LGBT, ABCDQGFA community. I'm telling y'all, somebody in your family is probably in the ABCDQ community. It's just wild. It's like, what in the world? All right, here we go. Whew.
Welcome back. Breaking right now, FBI Director Kash Patel just posted on X, quote, "The FBI is investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. There were 2 fatalities, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. In addition to those lives lost, 14 children and 3 adults have been injured. A bunch of them remain in critical condition. The shooter has been identified as Robin Westman. Born Robert Westman. The FBI is going to continue to provide updates on our ongoing investigation with the public as we are able. Let's go ahead and bring in retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow, an attorney, also a Fox News contributor. Paul, why do you think they are now pursuing this as an act of terrorism?
Look, they may have some indicia that there was this animus toward a particular religious group, which would make it a hate crime and potentially an act of terrorism if you have a mass shooting carried out for an ideological purpose. That is to say, if you get violence plus an ideological purpose, you get into the terrorism area. But let's be clear, at the federal level, you almost always need some connection to a foreign power. So the hate crime angle relative to this at the federal level is far more likely than it would be a terrorism case. But look, it's good that they're checking the boxing. It's good that they're looking at it that way. And they may have found something. They may have had an interview with somebody who told them this, or they already got into the computer. There may be something there.
Could a terrorism designation kind of give the investigators more resources, or some kind of a benefit in pursuing, whatever information can be gleaned about this now that the guy's dead?
In a practical sense, in a case like this, it's unlikely that it's going to matter. In a terrorism case, the reason you want that designation as a terrorist entity is because what you get then is that anything that's done in furtherance of that terrorist group, let's just say it's Al-Qaeda for the sake of argument, right, in a different instance, then anything you do that's in furtherance of that, think of it as conspiracy. Anything that you're doing in furtherance of the group is chargeable. And so that's why you like that bigger designation, because it takes you into a sort of a group. And anything you're doing on behalf of the group, like a RICO charge, anything you're doing on behalf of this group ends up being chargeable. But again, at the federal level, and this is why I've been somebody, and people disagree with me on this, and reasonable minds can disagree. I get it, but I have often advocated that we should be looking hard at a domestic terrorism charge, which can be modeled on the state terrorism charges that do exist around the country. And that is simply violence for an ideological purpose. And you don't need necessarily a protected class like a religion or a particular ethnicity, but violence for an ideological purpose, that would get you to a terrorism charge. We don't have that. And so likely, I think if the feds do charge here, it'll be more in the hate crime area, unless some fact that we don't know about now comes to light.
Well, and does any of this, I mean, not to be crude, but this guy is a murderer. He is now dead. Does it matter?
No, he's dead, so it doesn't really matter in terms of the investigation. I mean, just to be blunt about it, like I said, unless he does end up getting linked to a group, and let's take the terrorism charge out. Let's say he ends up being linked to a domestic group, let's say a hate group. Well, then it does matter, because what it allows you to do then is to start to scrape into that group. You can make it a conspiracy. You can configure it as a group of people who look to do something like this. And what I've been name checking all day is the thing that we had out in California where that guy bombed the fertility clinic. I don't remember his name, and I don't want to say it anyway. But while that didn't end up being a group, we all went away thinking, okay, one and done. That case is over. The guy blew himself up and nothing else to worry about. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, they charge a second piece. They're going to go all the way on this because of how horrific it is. You can rest assured, federal, state, local, doesn't matter. They're going all the way.
I want to go ahead now and bring in correspondent Bill Melugin. He's been digging into the details all day. He has also covered many school shootings. It's an unenviable beat to be on. But Bill, Trey Gowdy pointed out on our air earlier today that it seems over and over and over again, these mass shooters are young American men, usually in their 20s.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case. We don't really know why, but that's the profile that's being fit in this one as well. Just looking at some of the information we're getting about the shooter here, identified as Robin Westman. Fox News obtaining the paperwork that back in 2019, his parents filed in the state of Minnesota to allow him to change his name from Robert to Robin, and on that paperwork, it specifically said it's because he identified as female. So that was the reason for that name change. But you talk about like the profile of these young guys committing these shootings. That certainly does seem to be the case pretty much every time we have one of these high profile ones. It was the case in Uvalde, which, I covered a few years ago. It was the case in Sandy Hook. Now, thankfully, it doesn't appear this incident's going to be as bad, but you look at some of the things that are floating around online right now in terms of some of the writings. There's that manifesto flying around. We're obviously talking about a very sick individual here. It's going to take a while to figure out what, if any, motive there was here. You guys have been talking about the FBI, how they're announcing they're going to potentially investigate this as domestic terrorism, and rightfully so. This shooter apparently knew these kids were going to be there en masse, in class, at that time of the day, and just decided to post up outside with 3 weapons, as we found out. The police saying he came with a rifle, with a shotgun, and with a handgun. And, I've been listening to the sound bites of those children witnesses. You have a 10-year-old kid saying that, how terrifying it was to have bullets come flying through the stained glass. You had the one little boy say his friend Victor laid on top of him to protect him, took a round. I mean, think about it. A little boy potentially taking a high-velocity round from a rifle, being shot at from a nut job in a parking lot. He's one of the boys in the hospital recovering right now. And at the end of the day, 2 young children dead, Jillian, ages 8 and 10, 17 others injured, 14 of which are children. Again, you were texting me about this earlier, and it's a perspective that's worth talking about. It's first week of school for these kids. This is the last thing they should be worrying about. They should be meeting friends and meeting their teachers and having a good time. But this person, for whatever reason, we'll see what the investigation plays out, just decided to show up to that parking lot, post up outside, and just start firing dozens of rounds into that church. And again, what we've heard from the witnesses is it was just pretty nonstop. You know, we heard the witness this morning describing it as they thought somebody was working on their roofing nearby because the bang, 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 bang was just so nonstop. It's just yet another horrific incident. It's unfortunate we have to keep dealing with these every now and then, and it just makes it so much worse when it's a school involving young children, Jillian. I mean, these kids are so innocent, and here we go again, whether it's Sandy Hook, Uvalde, a school like this, you have these elementary age kids, you hear the innocence in their voice when they're interviewed by the media, and it's just hard to watch something like that, especially watching the parents show up. Like when I was at Uvalde, it was so hard because there were parents coming up to us, the media, asking us what information we had and holding up pictures saying, have you seen my little boy? Have you seen my little girl? Can you put it on the news right now? Can you get it out there? And you just see the panic in their faces. And watching the live shots that we've been doing all day long, you see that, right? Especially, you know, Paul and I were on set together earlier this morning when the parents were first starting to show up, and you can see the panic in their eyes. You can see them looking for their kids. You can see the relief on their faces when they're able to find their kids and bring them out. Imagine being one of those parents who showed up and wasn't immediately able to find their child, and didn't know what hospital they're at or didn't know what happened to them. It's just horrible stuff. So I understand we're waiting for the press conference with Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. Last check we got is that is running about 5 to 10 minutes behind.
Of course it's running
we
behind.
have that live shot popped up for our viewers in the bottom right of the screen. We'll wait for them to come out, and we'll see what kind of new developments we get. What, if any, further details we get on this shooter now, as the rest of these children and some of the adults who were injured are still recovering, Jillian.
We are indeed awaiting another news update. We're hoping to hear from the governor, Tim Walz, potentially law enforcement officials, health officials there in the county. Let's go ahead and play that sound you referenced, Bill, a 10-year-old who was on scene today, saw his friends get injured. It's incredibly difficult to watch, but guess what? We're going to play it because it's important that people see what is going on. Listen.
My friend like ran, someone helped him like run out. He saw him, he was wearing all black and he had a ski mask on. I was down, so I didn't really look up. I mean, he got shot through the stained glass windows. My friend Victor, he was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
All right, let's bring in Ted Williams, former D.C. homicide detective, also a defense attorney and a Fox News contributor. I don't know, Ted. What do you say to something like that?
You know, Jillian, is just so chilling to hear that young child. That young child, as many of the children that was on this scene, are going to be traumatized by this incident the rest of their life. But let's just look at what happened here. This was a planned, targeted, cold-blooded killing by this guy, Westman. Without a doubt, when you think about it, when he took two 2x4s, blocked the doors, so individuals who were in that mass praying could not get out, that says a great deal about what he had up his sleeves. He knew that he wanted to maximize carnage in that mass. I think you're going to find as part of the investigation that he has some familiarity with that Catholic school, when they were going to have mass, and how he could bring about shooting as many and killing as many as he possibly could.
Paul, I said it earlier in the show. I mean, this bears some striking resemblance to the Nazi pogroms that they carried out in occupied, parts of France and other countries in Western Europe during World War II. Outside of that, I have not personally been exposed to anything like this. What do you make of the idea that, this was an indiscriminate shooting? Do you think that what we know at this moment, which is that he fired from outside the church, substantiate that? Want to flag for our viewers, we see Governor Walz coming out to the sticks. Hopefully he's going to give us an update. But Paul, talk to us until he gets there.
Well, look, one of the things that we can definitely go to, as Ted says, is that this was quite targeted. There's some reporting out from the New York Post and other outlets that perhaps he had a relative who worked at the school at some point. These facts are all going to emerge, but let's just say that it almost certainly was not an accident that he went there. And what came to my mind, we said it earlier when Bill Malugin and I were on the air together, was the Nashville event. And we had far fewer facts at that point, but this bears a lot of resemblance to that. And we very well may find, as part of the manifesto or whatever comes out relative to this thing, that he is inspired or was inspired by that. He's a copycat. And we have to be mindful of that going forward, because let's just make sure we're all cognizant that copycats exist.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Oh my goodness. Hopefully this parents can bear the loss. It's not easy, for sure. All right, here we go. Team Walls.
The governor.
Certainly a day and a news conference that no one wants to be at. A community behind us, Annunciation Church and School, committed to academics, service, and Catholic values, filled with the first days of school of beautiful children going to learn those values, share with their teachers and their classmates. And instead of that joy and that curiosity and that learning, they were met with evil and horror and death. And we often come to these and say, these unspeakable tragedies, or there's no words for this. There shouldn't be words for these types of incidents, because they should not happen. And there's no words that are going to ease the pain of the families today. On behalf of all the people of Minnesota, our deepest sympathies. A wish that any of these words would make what you're feeling now better, but it won't. A place that's founded on community, founded on service, founded on family. I'd like to give special thank you to the mayor and the team in Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, Minnesota State Patrol, the BCA, so many agencies, our federal partners in the FBI, the first responders, and the heroic work that's happening now as we speak at multiple medical locations, including Hennepin County Medical Center, where most of our children were transported to receive the life-saving care. The thoughts and prayers and the hopes and the support that we need to give them in this moment, too, is critical. Speaking with all the people here, and grateful to our federal partners, Senator Klobuchar speaking early this morning, and receiving a call from President Trump, who was with his leadership team of the Attorney General and the Vice President, expressing their deep condolences amongst the horror that happened, and an offer to provide the support to the folks here in Minnesota of what's needed. So there's a lot of cameras here, and unfortunately we have been through these types of things. They will be gone at some point. All of you, you have to do your jobs. But what happened here today will not be gone. Minnesotans will not step away. We'll stand with this community. We'll redouble ourselves to do the best we can to understand what we can do to prevent any parent from having to receive the calls they received today, from any school dedicated to children having to respond to a situation that, as we said, is unthinkable, but that's all too common, not just in Minnesota, but across this country. It's Minnesota's day today, and it's my strongest desire that no state, no community, no school ever experiences a day like this. So I ask the rest of the folks around the country who are watching, keep us in your thoughts and prayers, but also keep us in the thoughts for action. Keep us in the ideas that we can work together. And it's on these days like this, I think, and I hope we can hold on to it. We are unified as a community. Everybody across the country today is part of the Annunciation Parish, and they're with those families. With that, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Well, he also spoke about the president reaching out to him about the shooting. So that's a good one. Let's listen to Minneapolis Mayor. Here we go.
Thank you, Governor. Throughout the morning, we have seen this extraordinary Minneapolis family step up in thousands of different ways. People with strength, resilience, compassion, and love for the families that have been forever impacted by this heinous act. We want to make sure that we're doing everything possible for them right now, and I want to give a special thank you, and we are so grateful to all of the faculty and the teachers at Annunciation. The way that they acted during severe threat and danger was nothing short of heroic. This is a tragic and horrible event that should never occur, and it would have been all the more tragic and horrible had they not stepped in, at times perhaps put themselves in danger to protect others. As horrible as this has been, it could have been far worse. I'm grateful for our law enforcement partners, our police officers in the Minneapolis Police Department and other law enforcement agencies well beyond that step up, that answered the call to make sure that they were running towards danger when so many of the rest of us would have run in the other direction. Thank you. We are so appreciative of your service. To Principal DeBoer and your whole team, the ethic that you have showed, the love that you've shown, it's flat out incredible. And at the same time, look, we need to be doing more than talking. It can't just be words. There needs to be action. And when we have seen school shooting after school shooting, when we have seen churches get shot up by horrible actors, I think the impetus has to be on all of us as leaders to do a whole lot more, to recognize that we've got more guns in this country than we have people. And it's on all of us to recognize the truth and the reality that we can't just say that this shouldn't happen again and then allow it to happen again and again beyond that. It's on all of us. And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids. Kids died today. This needs to be about them. This needs to be wrapping our arms around these families with every bit of love that we can possibly show. And I know that our Minneapolis family and well beyond is prepared to do exactly that. And so my message to everyone out there is, again, these families are experiencing some acute pain right now. But don't just think of these as somebody else's kids. Think of your own. Let's make sure that we're acting now to not just say it's never happening again, but ensure it doesn't. Our chief of police, who's been working tirelessly throughout the day, along with, again, a number of different law enforcement agencies, investigators, federal partners, state partners. Thank you, Senator Klobuchar, for being here. Been working tirelessly, and I'd like to invite him up to give some more of the details that have come up.
Well, you just heard.
Hopefully, one more time, these parents and actually these kids who have been traumatized can find healing, because this is traumatizing for both the parent and the kids. So hopefully they can find some healing. All right, here we go. Peter Doocy.
The president holding an hours-long cabinet meeting yesterday where he called for the return of the death penalty for murders committed inside the nation's capital.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy joins us live with the details on that and a possible crime crackdown in Chicago. Hey, Peter.
And we have new numbers to back up why it is that President Trump is trying to expand the federal crime crackdown. The AP has a brand new poll. 81% of adults think that crime is a major problem in this country. 55% nationwide support using the National Guard to come and address it. And the president's approval rating on crime right now is 53%. That is higher than most other issues. That is higher than his overall approval rating. And so what he's trying to do now is basically turn residents of Chicago against the Chicago mayor and the Illinois governor. He is dangling a solution, National Guard troops, to this problem of dangerous crime. The president posted this. He said, a really deadly weekend in Chicago. 6 dead, 27 hurt, and crime sprees all over the city. Panic-stricken Governor Pritzker says the crime is under control, when in fact it is just the opposite. He is an incompetent governor who should call me for help. Mayor Johnson is no better. Make Chicago great again. J.B. Pritzker, unmoved, he writes, this is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump trying to intimidate Americans and his political rivals into submission. It will not work, and we won't back down. The president feels like other parts of the country should want to replicate what has happened in D.C. in the last 2 weeks. Numbers like this: 1,094 total arrests, 115 guns seized, 8 known gang members arrested, 2 missing children recovered, 49 homeless encampments cleaned. They did have the first homicide in the district since the big federal intervention. And moving forward, President Trump is hoping to pursue the death penalty for that.
If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. And that's a very strong preventative. And everybody that's heard it agrees with it. I don't know if we're ready for it in this country, but where you have it, it is, we have no choice.
Well, right now, Washington, D.C. does not have the death penalty for any crimes. President Trump is hoping that before he leaves office, there will be capital punishment for capital crimes in the capital city. Back to you.
Arrest yesterday when someone burned the flag, I saw, right in front of the White House, correct? You're not allowed to do that.
Somebody was out in the park and they burned a flag to protest the president's new executive order against burning flags, or else a year in jail. And the charge that this guy was arrested on was just lighting a fire in a public park. And so it seems like it takes the executive orders a little bit to get into the judicial bloodstream.
Right.
Right.
All right.
So it had nothing to do with burning the American flag. It was a fire in a park.
He could have lit a new Cracker Barrel menu on fire and they would have arrested him.
Like a Seinfeld episode, full circle.
That was very quick
thanks,
of you.
Peter.
Very good.
So let's talk about crime. As you mentioned, Peter said the president's got 53% approval rating when it comes to crime. 80+% of the American people think crime's a problem. But the problem is these mayors in these blue cities, from Karen Bass to the other clown over in Chicago to this mayor here in New York who seems to be invisible, but the governor's already spoken up here in New York. They say do not send them. The governor of Maryland, we do not need your help. The mayor of Baltimore, we don't need your help. The bottom line is they do need the help if you just look at the numbers or talk to the people. And you actually have these Democrats talking about calling it a manufactured crisis. It's not a manufactured crisis if you live in a neighborhood where you have crime like this, especially crime that involves children. You have children getting shot. You have children getting killed in their neighborhoods. And Democrats want to call it a manufactured crisis. The other thing about I think that number about the 55% of Americans support sending the National Guard into these places to deal with this manufactured crisis. You know, when you meet the National Guard, it's so interesting. They're not these like jackbooted thugs that nobody knows. These are people who are from neighborhoods, often from those neighborhoods. These are normal American young men and women
who've signed up to serve in the National Guard.
Yeah.
And they speak the same language, they know the same problems, they have the same interests. These are not like stormtroopers.
Right.
These are like regular, normal Americans you can walk up to and have a normal conversation with. They're not threatened by them.
So yesterday we were talking about what happened over the weekend in Chicago, because the mayor there is saying, I'm going to go after Donald Trump if he comes in. Exactly. So, but there were 6 deaths and there were 27 people that were injured. Look at that. This big wall, long wall, all the ones in yellow with the yellow dots, they ended up surviving. The red ones are people who actually died. But the first one at 7 o'clock on Friday night, that was a 33-year-old woman who was just driving and she was shot in the eye. She's in serious condition. Then there were 2 that were right at that same evening. There were 2 more that were killed. One was pronounced dead on the scene. The other went to the hospital and died there. Then I'm flipping through all these papers of all the injuries. Then at 1:17 on Sunday, a 5-year-old little boy was killed inside an apartment when he suffered a gunshot wound to the head. He was taken to the Children's Hospital, later pronounced dead. Then right after that at 4:43, a 17-year-old boy was inside a residence, sustained a single gunshot wound to the head. He was transported to Chicago Medical Center in critical condition and later pronounced dead. And the list goes on and on. The next one was a 25-year-old man who was shot and killed. But I have this paper. Can we show this? Look at this. This is all.
It's pages and pages.
You won't be able to see it, but all of these pages are all of these injuries, one after another.
But the mayor said
from one weekend.
Crime's under control. He said under control. We don't need any help and we don't need any more cops. Pastor Corey Brooks in Chicago begs to differ.
We need to invite President Trump in. We invite the National Guard in. You know, we've had 254 deaths in 233 days. 80% of those have been black boys. And for anyone in our community to say that things are getting better and that people are safe, that is an outright lie. We need to do any and everything we can to keep our citizens safe. I realize that the National Guard is a temporary fix, but it will calm things down. It's up to organizations like ours to continue to do the solutions and bring the help that we need. But we have to speak out. We have to say something. We have to let the world know that this is an issue in Chicago, and we can't let the mayor nor the governor dictate how that is said.
More people are killed in Chicago than anywhere else in the state, the country. And by the way, murders may be down, but they're still unacceptable. Motor vehicle theft are up 80%. Misdemeanor theft, 61%. Felony theft up 46%. Burglary up 10%. This guy, they actually say Chicago doesn't need any help. That is a cry for help. Maybe you don't need any help, but the people in these urban areas absolutely do. Want even more Fox News on YouTube?
Of course, they don't need the help because they leave the good part of Chicago. They're leaving the good side. So when this poor normal everyday American are being affected, they're like, no, it's not true. Chicago is safe. No, it's not. All right, here we go. Cracker Barrel changes their logo.
Another big story is Cracker Barrel. They have gone back to the old logo. They listen to you, the customer. Here's a quote from the restaurant. We thank our guests for sharing your voices and love for Cracker Barrel. We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old timer will remain. At Cracker Barrel, it's always been and always will be about serving up delicious food, warm welcomes, and the kind of country hospitality that feels like family. As a proud American institution, our 70,000 hardworking employees look forward to welcoming you to our table soon.
And this, of course, came after President Trump issued a Twitter or a truth message of his own yesterday, which went everywhere. And apparently the CEO of Cracker Barrel called the president yesterday to thank the president for his message urging Cracker Barrel to quit all of their ridiculous changes. And then Trump put on Truth Social, congratulations, Cracker Barrel, on changing your logo back to what it was. All of your fans very much appreciate it. Good luck into the future. Make lots of money. And most importantly, make your customers happy again.
So a couple of things. I mean, before they did this logo revamp, they were having problems with the business model. They were needing to refresh. But what you do is add a different, maybe add something to the macaroni and cheese, or you have a different salad dressing. You put some different spices into your croutons. You probably shouldn't revamp everything.
Get like a Taylor Swift item on the menu.
Well, that would have certainly worked. Marcus Lemonis, the investor and host of The Fixer, former used to host The Prophet, he said that they should just admit, we made a mistake. And it turns out they did just that. Listen.
When you get a reaction, you should react to that as well. And I think what the CEO needs to do right this moment today is come out and say, look, we had a great idea. You obviously didn't like it. You're our customer. We're not going to change it. We thought about it. You responded. You reacted. It showed up in our registers. We're not going to change it. I've made a million mistakes before, but when the customer comes out and the market comes out and says, we don't like it, you don't need to double down.
He would know. He's the CEO of Camping World, the biggest RV company. He's the one with the big American flag, and a lot of people have said you need to take it down, and he does, and he fights for that American flag. And he also just bought Bed Bath & Beyond. But his point is correct. The customer is always right. Isn't that what your parents always taught you when you were a server? Always try to please the customer. The customer's always right. The customer spoke, and they changed it back.
It's not happy they are now. I mean, is that live?
It's not rocket science. And here's the thing. There's like a silver lining in this. People actually care about Cracker Barrel. They care about your logo. And that's a good thing. In what world is that anything but a good thing?
Well,
you have something to work with.
The stock came back, which is a good thing, after they lost $143 million in market value because of this revamp. But this is great news. Look, they listen to the customer. Everyone loves a story like this. When they made a mistake, they say, I'm sorry. Now everyone's going to flock to Cracker Barrel. People who weren't going to go, who were going to boycott it, will now go back.
Are you going to go?
I love Cracker Barrel. I'll always go.
You'll go this weekend.
But see, here's the thing.
In
Not this week.
In solidarity.
I think I'll go this weekend.
But the story has
we'll
yet.
go
I feel like we have
I'll
to.
go soon.
But I think that
Will you go?
I think the whole thing is, was there somebody woke within that organization that did all this?
Yeah.
Was there somebody just who said, okay, I read my pie chart wrong? Yeah. Or is there somebody with that agenda of political correctness that said, let's correct this 100-year mistake instead of saying, okay, let's get a refresh?
I would like to make this vow. I will go to every Cracker Barrel in New York City this week.
Okay.
Well,
that means you've already been to everyone.
To answer your question, I wanted to get this right. Laura Ingraham was talking about this last night, and she said there's a board member, and he owns a DEI consulting and strategy firm, and he pushes for DEI, promotes multicultural market knowledge on LinkedIn.
Dun, 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 dun. I think you got your lead.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
He wants to go to every single Cracker Barrel in New York. Yeah, he's about to eat. Eat, baby. Here we go.
All right, so the difference between red and blue state governors could not be more clear. Take Texas and California as evidence, or Texas and Florida versus California. Polar opposites, which is exactly why Virginia's race for governor on November the 4th is absolutely critical. Earlier today, Governor Glenn Youngkin tweeted out this warning, quote, in her very first act as governor, Abigail Spanberger promises to turn Virginia into a sanctuary state for dangerous illegal immigrants. Winsome Earl Sears promises to keep dangerous criminals off our streets. Could the choice be any more clear, Virginia? Your safety is on the ballot this November. Now, Governor Youngkin's tweet came after Spanberger told the Virginia Mercury that she would rescind Youngkin's executive order that requires the state's law enforcement to work with federal immigration enforcement. We did reach out to Spanberger's office for comment. A spokesperson told us that Spanberger does support state and local law enforcement working with ICE. But her spokesperson went on to say, quote, Abigail's top priority will be to continue keeping Virginians safe, not pulling local officers away from, well, their critical work of protecting Virginia's communities, to instead conduct and finance the work of federal law enforcement. Okay, talking out of both sides of her mouth, trying to have it both ways. With such a high-stakes early voting starting in mid-September, the state's GOP is now making a major push to get out the vote. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin joins us with more. Okay, she says it, and then she says, you know, we get a statement from her today that pretty much contradicts everything that she said she would do.
Yeah, Sean, this is a referendum on public safety that will start in 23 days when early voting begins. And this referendum has a clear choice, a choice between Winsome Earle-Sears, who has worked with me for the last 4 years to keep Virginians safe, who will stand with law enforcement and will, in fact, keep violent criminals who are here illegally off the streets, and Abigail Spanberger, who clearly believes that she will create a sanctuary state in Virginia. And let's just be clear, her record is absolutely straightforward. She voted against the Laken Riley Act when she was in Congress. She voted to reduce the penalties for violent crime when she was in Congress, when our nation's capital leadership brought a whole new way of thinking about violent crime, which is to slap people on the wrist, and she voted for it. And now she has clearly said that she is going to make Virginia a sanctuary state. She can't walk this back through an aid. That's where she stands. We all know it. And that's why this election is so important. This is a referendum on Virginians' public safety. Winsome Sears will keep you safe. Abigail Spanberger will not.
All right. In light of the shooting that took place earlier today, in light of the battle that has been ongoing ideologically on the issue of law and order and safety and security, and President Trump bringing safety and security to D.C., and he's promising to do it to other cities as well, doesn't sanctuary status by its very nature codify into law illegal or aiding and abetting illegal immigration?
Yeah, it does. And Sean, just for a minute, I just would ask everyone to lift up in prayer for the victims of today's just terrible, just shockingly evil shooting in Minneapolis. At the end of the day, there is evil in the world. And we have now seen children murdered and many, many adults and children severely injured. And this is a moment for us to come around and support these families, this community. There they were in mass, and someone came in and shot them. And I have to be honest, I have been astounded by the links that people will go to demonstrate evil behavior. But today has been one of the most shocking days in my term as governor. I do believe that Abigail Spanberger does want to codify the rights of criminals over the rights of victims and citizens. And that's exactly what saying a state or a city will be a sanctuary for the illegal is. And we have to stand for law and order. And what we've seen in Virginia is that we can do this. We have a fabulous cooperation with the federal government, with Homeland Security, with the FBI, with the DEA, with ATF in order to bring these criminals to justice. We've arrested over 3,500 illegal criminals who have been in this country illegally. We're sending them home. It works. We're making Virginia safer. We have seen a 30% reduction in murders in the Commonwealth of Virginia because we enforce the law. And this is why this election is so important, because we have one candidate in Winsome Sears who will stand for safety and stand for the rule of law, and another candidate, Abigail Spanberger, who candidly will turn around and tell you something completely different tomorrow, but we know where she stands. She stands for slaps on the wrist. She stands for letting criminals out early. She stands for making sure that the rights of criminals stay in front of the rights of victims and citizens. That's the difference on the ballot, and that's why this election is so important.
Let's talk about the registration issue in Virginia, especially Northern Virginia. You have a lot of Democrats that work in the D.C. bureaucracy. They come out in high numbers. It makes it very, very tough for a Republican to win statewide election. You know, you want a tough race, but you are the anomaly. I mean, by every definition, is Virginia not, the Commonwealth not a purple state?
It's very purple, but we can win. And listen, at the end of the day, the goal of winning is supported by getting more votes than the other candidate. And that's exactly what we have to do.
I'll tell you, you've done wonders for the state. I hope people reward your hard work and the lieutenant governor's hard work with an election win here.
I gotta say, he's doing a great job. I got a speeding ticket in Virginia, and I wasn't even speeding. I wasn't even speeding. and I got a speeding ticket. And if you get a speeding ticket in Virginia, it's like a big deal. Okay. It's a big deal. So, yeah, there goes that. Okay. He's doing a great job, I tell you that much. I wasn't speeding, but I got a speeding ticket. And, the officer was so kind. It was like, you're a respectful gentleman. And I just want to tell you, I will be rooting for you. And if you ever go to court, I'm going to tell them that you were a good person when I stopped you. And I'm just like, can you not give me the ticket, please? Just say I'm a good guy. Just give me a slap on the wrist. And, I would never do this again. I would never go 65. I would never go 65 on a 60. Okay. I would never go 65 on a 60 in Virginia. And he said, I don't know. But he was so nice. But he gave me the ticket, though. All right, here we go. The 5.
Over to Trump's law and order crackdown. 81% of Americans say crime in large cities is a major problem, and that same poll has President Trump's approval on crime at 53%. But those Democrats at summer camp say that violence doesn't matter.
Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans.
But about those carjackings, D.C.'s Democrat Mayor Muriel Bowser has been a thorn in Trump's side over the national troops in her city. But even she had to admit Trump's right about everything.
The difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer.
Exactly.
So, Brian, in the midst of this big crime crackdown, you have one of the most heinous crimes we've ever seen, children slaughtered in a church.
I mean, and then you see this manifesto, and I guess we're waiting for it to verify, but it looks like it's going to be verified with horrible things that he said, kill Trump, a whole bunch of things, Jesus' name defiled, sitting there on the target, saying one of the lines was, I didn't ask to be born, and they didn't ask to die. I mean, this guy is so twisted, or became a woman, whatever you want to call him. They got to look. This is very similar to the Tennessee situation, only we have a different administration. They hold on to that manifesto for over a year. That was another trans situation. What kind of drugs? Is there something to be learned by the type of transition drugs he may or may not have been on as they made this move, I guess, officially? The mom had to sign him on in 2019 at the age of 17. So I think we need to know if that's playing a role and if anybody's safe as they're going through this mental breakdown. So I think that for that mayor to come out and worry about the trans community and not worry about the Catholic community, the Christian church, the families that they're going through, he's worried about people in the trans community. My goodness, I'm more worried about what's going on the next time a grammar school kid wants to go to church to pray that he's going to have a good year. In terms of Muriel Bowser, I mean, I got to give her credit. She came out and gave Trump, she says, look, this has worked. It's helping me. If your goal truly is a mayor, Harold, you talk about this all the time. If your goal is to make your city better, where you got elected, you don't do that job to get rich. You do it to make people's lives better. And she's saying this guy helped. And she also pointed out the sincerity that the president has in making our city safe and how well he knows this city, and talked about dealing with Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi in a positive situation. I think that Chicago, New York should take a look at this and maybe take a step back.
Harold, your name was mentioned during that commentary. Would you like to say anything?
Sure. I mean, and good to be back, Brian. I didn't say hello while we were in the beginning of the show. We were talking about health matters, so it's good to see you. Good to be with you today. I think that President Trump deserves tremendous credit for what he's doing in Washington. He doesn't have the same authority in Chicago and New York. Our commissioner here, Jessica Tisch, is doing a phenomenal job, has said we would want more collaboration with you. I listened to the president earlier. He said something that we've all said around this table the last few days. We need a national crime bill. We need more police officers on the street. We need more prosecutors to prosecute violent crimes. We need, in areas where the federal government can take over things, they should be in the business of collaborating to take it over. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say just something about Minneapolis. It's a tragedy. I don't know if it's the drugs these kids are using or not. One thing we do know, the common denominator in all this are guns. Now, I'm not a big guy that say, I'm not a big mouth about guns this or guns that, but at some level, the sanctity and the misapplication of the Second Amendment can't supersede every conversation about the lives of our kids, the lives of our family members. My kids go to a church-affiliated school, and the first day of school is in a week. I can't imagine at chapel something like this happening. I wouldn't want this to happen to anyone. The common denominator in everyone is not a transgender, it's not a this or that, it's a gun. Now, there may be some other commonalities, but what I encourage President Trump to do, he has done so many huge things and challenged so many things that we thought were immovable. He's challenged birthright citizenship. I'm not sure I'm there with them all together, but I get the conversation because I'm not convinced that's what the framers thought of birthright citizenship as we think about what's happening with migrants in our country today. The president also said, I'm going to take over certain things in this country that Democrats or Republicans can't do. He's forced us to think about it. He's talked about attacking cartels in Mexico. I would encourage the president to bring together gun manufacturers, munition makers, politicians, policymakers, and have a real conversation there at the White House like you do with foreign leaders about what more we can be doing to make sure that the people who should not be getting guns, like this kid, whatever he's done, whatever he did, he wanted to be or not want to be, he was mentally off. We've got to figure out a better way to deal with this than we are.
Do you think there could have been something done if someone changes their name and thinks they're another gender? Would you not have them have access to weapons?
No, I think there are trans people who are stalked and they are terrorized and they worry about their own self-protection and they deserve to protect themselves. I worry about someone who has ever gone to the doctor and says, you know, I feel a little anxious. Can you prescribe me some Xanax for a plane? And then all of a sudden their name goes on some federal database. Yeah, and they can never get a weapon to defend themselves. There are plenty of laws keeping good people from buying guns and ammunition. You know, we talked to Joe, our local sporting goods guy, and, you know, he's furious that people who deserve to protect themselves and their families, for people who enjoy sporting life, that they are not capable to go in and buy a weapon without some sort of registry. Yes, this person was mentally ill. It's not the trans part, it's the part that he was absolutely, completely evil. And in places like Minnesota, they do have red flag laws. And his parents should have known, and parents should be nosy, absolutely. But, you know, I wish there were someone there to put a bullet between this little a-hole's eyes before he was able to pull a trigger. The only solace I have is that when he took his own cowardly life, which he should have done in the parking lot before he got out of his car, is that he woke up in hell. That is the only comfort that I have. And taking guns away from good people who deserve self-protection, I'm sorry, it's not the answer.
Kennedy, I'm not
here.
saying take it away. I'm saying we ought to have longer checks for things like this. I'm not even saying that people, I agree with you, people who ask for some Xanax to go on a plane or to do something, that's totally different. I'm only saying we ought to have a longer background period to investigate all these things. If it means we inconvenience someone who wants to fly 10 people, 100 people, and we're able to prevent these kinds of things, that's all I'm saying. And we can have a conversation off air, but I'm not saying limit. I'm saying let's investigate further.
And there may be a nexus between mental illness and the trans situation. I mean, this person was suicidal, depressed, and we've seen a few cases with Antifa and some of these mass shooters. They're transgender, and they're very, very angry and violent and delusional.
Well, and you can't rule that out. So I think coming into the conversation immediately and focusing on only one aspect of it will deny any type of solution to that problem that, yes, we are clearly seeing a sickness infiltrate our society. And it's certainly not helped by social media and sort of a reward for this violence that's online, often with this. I echo everything that you say, Kennedy. So I'd like to, for a moment, focus on D.C., because immediately after this unfathomable tragedy, there were those in D.C. that sought to politicize this against President Trump, including the former press secretary for Biden. I want to talk about, there was a White House correspondent, And she obviously covered the White House. She lived in D.C. And at 8:30 a.m. in the morning, she was robbed at gunpoint. And she refused to give up her cell phone because she knew on that cell phone were these sources, these sources that she had sworn to sort of protect. And she felt it was her duty to prevent that from falling in the wrong hands. And so her assailant pistol whipped her. This is a young woman at 8:30 in the morning in front of her apartment. And after that, thank God she was left with her life intact. Police said they had an idea who it was. They saw him go into another apartment. And then what happened? Nothing. So cut to 2 years later, she is obviously traumatized, no longer walks in her own city. She grew up in New York City, by the way. She was street smart, she called herself.
Yeah, Iris Tao.
Yep. She took Uber everywhere because of that. She couldn't even tell her grandparents because of the horrificness of the situation. And the point is that when people ask her, she says, is D.C. safe? We've heard that the stats are down. She says, well, I don't know about statistics, but let me tell you about my experience. And her point in this beautiful op-ed, Iris Tao, is that you cannot impose upon all of those individuals that live in D.C. and live in Chicago and live in these areas your statistics that you read about in papers or that you accept without question from the Metropolitan Police Department that says, oh, but look, violence is down. Because even if there's one violence, there's 30,000 incidents reported of violence last year in D.C., and every one of those is an Iris Tao. It is a horrifying generational trauma that the families undergo too. And final quick point that she made, which is that she is now pregnant, which is incredible. And she is moving away from D.C. with her husband because there is no way in hell, she says, they are raising their child in D.C. unless and until the president can clean it up. And if there's anyone that can, it is him.
All right, it's a very powerful story. And
Man, everybody is now supporting, well, most people with common sense are now supporting the commander-in-chief on his actions on federalizing D.C., bringing down the crime spree in D.C. And everybody wants safety, and that's just it. Every rational human being wants safety. And concerning the school issue, I would always support homeschool. Always. All right, here we go.
It's a tale of two illegals and the media. The big three networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, could be NBS for all I care. They all refuse to cover the illegal immigrant truck driver charged in a deadly U-turn crash that killed 3 people in Florida. But they spent a precious 17 minutes on the accused MS-13 gangbanger. You know him. You don't like him. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This as we get some shocking police body cam footage of the killer truck driver. He got pulled over last month in New Mexico and struggled to speak English. Watch.
I feel bad being the first guy to write you a ticket, but you know, I try to help you out.
They said in my no license in the ticket.
What's that?
They send the ticket in the no my credit.
I'm sorry, I guess I don't understand what you're
Maybe in the this my ticket in the my license. Or how many years?
No, you're going to do several years in prison here pretty soon. Unfortunately, as for the media's devoted Maryland dad, soon to be the Uganda dad, a federal judge says Kilmar Abrego Garcia can't be deported to Uganda until at least early October. But until then, the suspected human smuggler is in custody, and he's showing his patriotism.
Gobierno corrupto.
Jesse, 2 questions. One, if the government is so corrupt, why would he want to stay in a country with such a corrupt government?
Yeah.
And number 2, why Uganda? You take either. Go ahead.
Well, let's just talk about why the media didn't cover this at all. Remember, they had everything. They had video of this truck driver hitting these people and dying. They didn't cover that. It created a firestorm between the 2 most powerful governors in the country, Newsom and DeSantis. It sparked new federal regulation. Donald Trump was tweeting about it. And it's about illegal immigrants, which is the hottest story right now. So the producers of these morning shows and these nightly news shows, Brian knows better than anybody. You have to fill, what's the Today Show, 4 hours? GMA, 2 hours. I mean, you are dying for hot content. So they went out of their way to specifically ignore this story. And when you ignore stories that are important to the American people are going to ignore you. And that's what you see in their ratings. They're down, the anchors are taking pay cuts, and they're embarrassed because of the way they covered Kilmar. First, they said he was a Maryland dad. No, he's from El Salvador. Then they said he's a great dad. No, actually, he beats the wife. And then they said, oh, well, you know, we just got to bring him back to get due process. I don't think he wants due process now because his dumb lawyer is going to send him to Uganda after all this. And if Joe Biden had just done his job and deported him to any other country in the world except El Salvador, he could have been in Costa Rica, France. He could have been in Tahiti, not even in prison. He could have been on a beach in Tahiti if Joe Biden had just sent him where they were supposed to send him. And now he's going to be eating grasshoppers in Uganda.
Well, good news for him, because there is a Bleeding Heart family who's got a massive compound in Uganda who might be able to make some room for Kilmar, and that is Zoran Mamdani's family. They've got a sprawling, beautiful complex in a country where most people live below the international poverty level. Kilmar might not have to if he has
Mi casa
his way with
es
them.
su casa.
Well, isn't that what communism is?
That's right.
From each according to their ability to each Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So, Emily, I want to talk with you a little bit about the driver in Florida who is being charged with vehicular homicide. There is a petition going around, 2.2 million signers so far. They want leniency for this person. Is that what he deserves?
Look, them calling for a fair sentencing, I don't knock. But I think it is obvious that they're missing the entire point, because this same swath of people that hate the president and that jump to assumptions about the reasoning behind laws as being racist are the reason why those 3 people are dead in the first place. Because back in April, when President Trump issued that executive order that, by the way, was in place before, and the Obama administration suspended it, which required commercial truckers to be able to be proficient in English, to read traffic signs and the like. At the time, everyone said, oh, it's racist. Jake Tapper said, quote, how would the English-speaking requirement make our roadways safer? Well, sir, I think it's pretty obvious you would be able to read a sign that says no U-turns. And the irony that all of us, when we took our driver's license exams, had to ensure that, yes, we understood the roadways signs. It has nothing to do with origin or race or what it means if you can't speak English. It's understanding the language that our entire highway system is based on, because if you don't, then people die. But yet again, they are missing that point. And to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who prefers that he's sent to Costa Rica, I would too. We all would love to be in Costa Rica right now, but I think his wife would have preferred that he didn't punch her in the face. I think those children that he smuggled would have preferred that they weren't sexually assaulted and human smuggled across the border. I think there's a long line of people that would have preferred that he didn't enter their life. So I am excited for him to rot in Uganda.
Okay, so Harold, why do libs love Kilmar so much? Like, what is it about him? Would you let him babysit your children?
I wouldn't. So just a couple of things. I know we only have a minute. First, we often, and I think wrongly, blame President Biden and the former president for Democrats for when people come in here under their watch. This guy that the driver's seeing came while President Trump was in office. He was a got-away under President Trump's DHS, and he was granted some form of asylum under President Trump. Now, I don't blame President Trump for his action. What I do give credit for or answers. I think Sean Duffy, our former colleague, deserves a lot of credit. I think he was trying to address some of the things that Emily raised. The DOT, the Department of Transportation, is going to withhold federal funds from any state that does not enforce the English language proficiency requirement in their commercial driver's license test. It seems like a no-brainer. Finally, one of the reasons this guy is able to, Garcia, is able to get, it seems like something's wrong, something's weird about this case. We have talked about reporting that says that he's the worst guy in the world. He beat his wife, which clearly he has not denied that. So I'm saying the things he's done, maybe trafficking. I don't understand, if you were an American citizen and you did these things, you seem to be getting worse treatment than this guy's. I don't know if there's something else that we don't know, but whatever it is, they need to find out. One thing I do know is he's still applying. He's going to renew his bid for asylum. One of the reasons that Congress has to act is that the president can't executive order this. He should executive order some form of asylum reform in the meantime, but we need Congress to act to ensure that you can't just come to America's border or be here having gotten some sort of dispensation and say to an asylum court judge, it's really bad at home, I need to stay. There has to be a higher standard. That's what I hope Congress and the president will work on, because I'm tired of hearing this. I'm tired of hearing about these cases. And frankly, I don't understand why Garcia, if all the reporting is even a third true on this guy, why is it that he's not been deported yet? There's something we don't know, and we need to learn. And with that, I rest my case.
He's up for the Father of the Year award in many states.
Right. I think his wife is possibly too scared to speak up, but she must be relieved to some way that he's locked up again on way to Uganda. Just real quick, it's really simple to read the police report. This guy was hanging out with MS-13 in an area where almost MS-13, if me or Jesse showed up to hang out with MS-13 and we weren't a member, it wouldn't have went well for us. So why was he there? That's why the cop at the scene said, this guy is a member of these guys. They knew who he was, so that's why he was picked up. Number two, we got video of the trafficking. I'm watching ABC on the rerun. I watch at between 2 and 3 in the morning. I call you guys, but you don't pick up. And I'm watching them do this story. There's video of the trafficking. It's great video. You can hear the audio. They don't bring it up in the charges. They don't show the video. Why does ABC, and I imagine the other networks, not interested in showing some controversial elements to his background? So, and there's also 3 names we should know. It is 30-year-old Herbie Dufresne, Rodriguez Dur, and Fanola Joseph. Those are the 3 people that were killed. We just got their names the other day. I want to know where their families. Those families should be outraged by this foreign truck driver.
All right, thank you for bringing that up, Brian. And coming up next.
Oh my goodness. God is the greatest. Thank you guys for being here. If you are in the United States, especially if you came from another country like me, and you came in legally, which I recommend for you to come into the United States legally, learn to speak English. You don't have to be, Marco Rubio level speaking or who is articulate. Stephen Miller, I would say, or President Donald Trump, but still learn to speak English. All right, learn to communicate in English. You can have your own language from your country, but still you have to learn the language of the land, which is English. All right, here we go.
Founder of White Dudes for Harris, Mike Nellis, is here. All right, Mike, 12 days, no murders in Washington. Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, I think it is a good thing that there's been 12 days with no murders. You mentioned it being a record, though. This is not the longest streak this year that they haven't had any murders. It's been 16. I think the challenge here is that Donald Trump is playing a lot of theater in order to ultimately distract from what he doesn't want to talk about, which is the economy. But at the end of the day, what he's doing and what I find to be offensive is he's using Jesse.
I mean, distraction. We talked about the economy for 3 hours at a cabinet meeting today. How's this a distraction? He was elected, one of the reasons, to fight crime, and he's doing it.
Jesse, he's boasting about record tariff intake that the government is taking, but he's not talking about inflation anymore because everything's more expensive. And as I've reminded you on your own program before, Fox's own polling shows Donald Trump is as unpopular on inflation as Joe Biden was at the height of the inflation.
So when
period.
he gets stimmy checks out to all these Democrats, they're just not going to cash them, right? They'll send them back in. What does it say? They'll send them back in, we'll pay down the debt, and they'll refuse to cash them. Mike, I'm talking about crime. You say it's a distraction.
Sure.
I say it's one of the many things he's been successful at. The border, crime, getting companies to invest here in America. Why does it have to be a distraction? Why can't it just be, hey, he's juggling a lot of balls?
Yeah, he's juggling a lot of balls. And look, I'll give some credit because the numbers are better, but the numbers are better because the military are on our streets. And if you look at the economic numbers in Washington, D.C., you can tell that people don't feel safe in D.C. Restaurant revenue dropped 40%. People don't feel safe to go out to a restaurant.
Mike, you're comparing restaurant revenue from Restaurant Week from a different week. That's been debunked.
No, I'm not, Jesse.
It's been
That's
debunked,
not true.
Mike. We debunked it on the 5. You should watch the 5.
Okay.
You learn a lot. But tell me this, should Chicago invite the Guard in? I mean, they have a real problem with homicides.
No, look, I think Chicago needs to do a better job of dealing with crime. Our local leaders need to do a better job of dealing with crime. But the city of Chicago has had a chance to vote for Donald Trump 3 times, and he lost by 80% each of the 3 times that he was on the ballot. I think if Donald Trump wants to get involved heavily in issues somewhere else, he should go look at red states, because Donald Trump doesn't have any urgency to deal with Louisiana, which is the murder capital of the United States. He doesn't have anything to say about Oklahoma, which has the worst schools in the nation. Doesn't have anything to say about Arkansas,
Mike,
which has the highest teen pregnancy rate.
those are crime-ridden too. Those are crime-ridden too. And if the mayor
when's
wants
Donald
to
Trump gonna
invite
do
Donald
something
Trump
about the
to
crime
go in
rid
there
that's
and do
happening
it-
in Republican
Chicago's a little bigger than Baton Rouge, Mike. Okay, and you live in Chicago, and you should care. Did you hear my friend out there in the monologue talking about her cousin, her uncle, her niece? They're all dead, Mike. Do you care about that at all? Your mayor doesn't care. Your mayor doesn't want any backup. They're offering him more cops, more guard, and he says, no, more housing. What the hell's wrong with him?
Hey, listen, I care about the crime that happens in Chicago, but I also care about making sure that people feel safe. And I know that I'm not going to feel safe in my city if when I take my son to school, I have to drive by a tank. I know I'm not going to feel safe if when I take him to a ball game, I'm going to see armed military members.
Okay,
there's
does that
a way
scare
to do
you to
it. Hey,
see a
hang on,
tank,
Jesse.
Mike?
Can I finish my
Does
point?
that scare you?
Jesse,
I'd be
can I
more
finish my
scared
point,
of
though?
strays, but go ahead.
No, because I'm willing to support, I'm happy to support having more police on the streets of Chicago to help keep us safe. The problem is, in Donald Trump's budget that he signed by the Republicans, he cut community police funding by $2 billion, which means there'll be fewer police on the
All right,
streets.
Mike, you guys
so Donald
defunded
Trump
the
isn't
police,
interested
so don't
in
talk
solving
about
that.
cutting
No,
funding,
Donald Trump
okay?
is the one who defunded
No,
the
he
police.
didn't. Everybody knows
yes,
the
he
Democrats
did.
defunded.
Did Donald Trump sign
They
the Republican
defunded
budget,
all
Jesse?
over the country, Mike. I don't have
No,
time
they
to
didn't.
debate that, but I respect
Okay.
that you are from Chicago and you want to be safe and you don't want to see a tank when you see the White Sox lose, and that's okay. That's okay.
I want to. First of all, I'm a Cubs fan before I'm a White Sox fan.
Okay,
Don't
good.
put
Well,
words in my
that's.
mouth
I
on
knew I
baseball.
liked you. But we are all in agreement that Chicago needs to do a lot better. You and I will agree on that.
I think a lot of cities need to do better, Jesse, and I'm tired of Republicans blaming all the crime on Democratic states.
Well,
When is
most of
Donald
them are
Trump gonna
run
do
by
something
Democrats.
about his own states?
Most of them are run by Democrats, but we don't have to count it right now. Mike, good to talk to you.
Plenty
Thank
of-
you so much. Go
Thanks,
Cubs.
Jesse.
Click here.
Whoa, he was standing toe to toe with Jesse. Well, good points. He made some good points. Some Republican states too need help. Yeah, they need help as well. So federalize any state that has crime charts that is just out of this world. It's not about Democrat or Republicans right now. It's more of, do you love America? If you love America, it's not going to be a bipartisan issue. It's going to be safety first, whether you are Republican or Democrat. It is country before party. So if a Republican state needs help with crime, the OG, the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States, should do something concerning that as well.
Every policy of the Trump administration is designed to lift up the American worker, promote great paying blue collar jobs, and to rebuild the industrial bedrock of our nation.
Well, he's right about that. I mean, the only question, after all the great accomplishments of the Trump administration and the early successes hitting his stride, how do the H-1B visas fit into this? This is when foreign workers are allowed to come into the United States. Because the entire thing, to me, is a scam. There is no reason why we should be bringing in foreign workers when American workers are up to the task. If you believe in the free market, you got to raise wages so American workers will actually do these jobs. Last year, nearly 400,000 applications for H-1B visa work were approved from India, China, and other countries. That's more than double the amount approved in the year 2000. So does the American workforce really just decline that much? That's 400,000 jobs that did not go to American workers. And the companies that love foreign workers, companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Meta. Here to weigh in is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, your reaction to this? I mean, I know in the Trump cabinet there's a real divide on this issue, but it's an issue I've fought for many, many years. What do Americans need to understand?
Okay, chat, I have to ask you a question right now. Do you guys think that Governor Ron DeSantis has any chance in 2028? Of course, I know everybody's talking about the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. Some of us are talking about, Marco Rubio, extremely skillful with the way he communicates. Everybody knows that Marco is just top notch, next level. He has 4 different jobs, so that's a testament for how competent he is. So people are talking about J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. Some people are even talking about what's her name, DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, as a vice president, a potential vice president in 2028. However, what do you guys think about Ron DeSantis? Some people are saying he's probably on the top 5, one of the greatest governors that the United States has right now, because Florida education is top notch. Okay, top notch education right now. But what do you guys think about Ron DeSantis?
Understand about this?
Well, I think you're right to say the H-1B, it's become a total scam. These companies game the system. You have some of these companies that are laying off large numbers of Americans while they're also getting new H-1Bs and renewing H-1Bs. And a lot of times people used to say, well, we're getting the cream of the crop from all around the world. The reality is that's not actually what H-1Bs are. Most of them are from one company or from one country, India. There's a cottage industry about how all that people make money off this system. Yeah. And look at what's happening to young people in this current job market because of artificial intelligence. You are starting to see evidence that they're having a much tougher time because of what's happening with AI. So if that's going to continue to produce dislocations, why would we be importing foreign workers when we have our own people that we need to take care of?
Well, they want cheap labor. That's why. They want workers that will come into the United States and that have no, portability of their job prospects. They have to stay as workers for Google or for Walmart or for pick your garden variety, large, now essentially multinational corporation. That's why. They want to keep wages lower.
No,
period.
Precisely.
Full stop.
100%. 100%. They save money. And as you said, these H-1Bs limit the H-1B worker to that one company. It's almost like a form of indenture servitude. And so we've seen them take advantage of that time and time again. And I just think like the overall message from the time President Trump first ran for office was we're going to put the American people first. And I think that he's done that in so many ways, like the border and other things. And I think it should apply to these visa programs as well.
I want to go to this other issue, which set the MAGA base on fire last night, the issue of the 600,000 visas for Chinese students that President Trump said he would be open to allowing into the country. Today, he said our college system would go to hell very quickly without them. This would be the most amount of Chinese students ever admitted to the United States, almost doubling the 380,000 Chinese students that are in the country today. My question to you is, should we be concerned if 15% of colleges end up going under because they can't have, students from the Chinese communist system in paying full freight?
If you're bringing in somebody to study as a foreign student, the only reason that should be done is if it benefits the American people, not to subsidize colleges. And to put it in perspective, the state of Florida, we're the 3rd largest state in the United States. The total number of students in our entire state university system, 12 universities, is a little over 300,000. So that would mean you're almost doubling the entire population of Florida's state university system with just Chinese students. And as we know, there is a significant percentage of the Chinese students who are they're engaged with the CCP. It used to be, Laura, they would say, oh, you bring the people from China, they're going to love America, they'll go back and they'll be ambassadors and China will change. But obviously that has not happened because this has been going on for decades. So, I think it's first of all, the fact that we have 300,000 now is way out of bounds of, I think, what most people would want to see. I'd rather those slots go to American students.
I'd rather have none. How's that? I'd rather have none. I think the whole thing is a bailout to colleges, and why would want to bail out colleges? We've got a lot of Republican lobbyists working for top American educational institutions, And a lot of them seem to have a lot of power here. I don't know why, but that cannot continue. Governor, we appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to.
So the commander-in-chief also spoke concerning the China student situation. However, he says he doesn't have any issue with Chinese student coming into the United States. That's what he said. He said he doesn't have any issues with Chinese students coming to the United States because they pay the United States. So it's like he doesn't mind, which to some extent that makes a lot of sense because they are American student in China as well. So, I mean, look, definitely it's America first. And if you come into the United States legally to study or to work, as long as you came in legally, then you're good to go. All right, here we go.
Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Governor, why do mayors resist help fighting crime from the feds?
It's absolutely crazy that they wouldn't be thanking Donald Trump for helping them fix their cities. One of the big reasons that Donald Trump is president is because people want to feel safe in their communities. They want the border to be shut down. They don't want drugs and lawlessness taking over our country. And it's one of the big things that propelled him back into the White House because they know he's a president who's going to bring law and order. He's going to back up our law enforcement. He's going to make people feel safe and secure again. And that's exactly what he's delivering on. I think that Democrat mayors and governors need to be thanking him and begging him to come to their cities and help them out because clearly they're not capable of doing the job and they need a president that will step in. I don't blame Joe Biden, though, because not only did he not know what was happening in D.C., he didn't know what was happening anywhere in the country. So it's a good thing we have Donald Trump back in the White House to help not only secure our nation's capital, but to make our entire country safer, stronger, and much more secure than it's been in decades.
Do you have any crime problems in any of your cities in Arkansas? And would you invite the president with the Guard to come help?
We're always going to invite Donald Trump and its safety and security into our state. We certainly have worked really hard. We've expanded prison capacity, put more law enforcement officers on our streets in the last 2 years. It's been one of the biggest focuses of our state and will continue to be. And we will always work with President Trump to make sure our communities and our state are safer. I applaud him. I'm thankful for it. And we want to keep working with him to make Arkansas as safe as everywhere else in the country.
You know, the Democrats are playing the race card. They're saying he's only going after cities with black mayors. Well, Mayor Wu is not black in Boston. They have a white mayor in San Francisco. There's a white mayor in St. Louis. Do you see any racial component to this?
I see a president who's focused on security. It has nothing to do with race and everything to do with going into cities where you have Democrat mayors who are refusing to do their job and actually help protect the people that they've been elected to serve. Now we have a president who says, if you won't do it, I will. And he's finally stepping up. Like I said, they should be thanking him, not fighting him, and welcoming him into helping do their jobs because they're simply not getting it done.
Did you see Kami Mondami not get it done? I mean, that wasn't a lot of weight. That might have been probably less than his body weight. He doesn't look more than 135 pounds anyway. Does that inspire you as just a general observer, Governor?
I think my 11-year-old could bench press more than he did, and I think I'd be happy to put him up against him. But it just shows not only are they weak in the weight room, but weak when it comes to providing safety and security. And I'm glad that he's not the mayor of any town here in Arkansas.
All right. Well, I'm sure your son could put up more than that, Governors.
He's probably going to win the election being the mayor of New York. What do you guys think? I don't think anybody is making any advancement because he just people are supporting him, even if it's to their own detriment. They're still supporting him. You know what they say? What's that saying? People will rather go to hell than be forced to go to heaven. That's something I heard last week. People would rather go to hell than be forced to go to heaven. It was a 74-year-old man that told me that. I was at Chick-fil-A with my daughter. She was in the playground in Chick-fil-A, and me and this grandpa started talking, and he told me that. I'm like, whoa, that's a good point. All right, here we go. Pam Bundy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, wait.
Executive Associate Director Derek Gordon, FBI Operations Director, who I'm with every day, Chad Yarborough, U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of Florida, Jason Quinones, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas, Justin Simmons, and Acting Assistant AG Matt Gagliotti, who I'm with almost every day as well. We're here to announce a landmark victory for the Department of Justice, our law enforcement partners, and the United States of America. As you've heard, drug kingpin Ishmael Zambada Garcia, also known as El Mayo, has confessed to a lifetime of crime in service to the Sinaloa cartel, a foreign terrorist organization. Thanks to the relentless work of our prosecutors and our federal agents, El Mayo will spend the rest of his life behind bars. He will die in a U.S. federal prison where he belongs. His guilty plea brings us one step closer to achieving our goal of elimination of the drug cartels and the transnational criminal organizations throughout this world that are flooding our country with drugs, human traffickers, and homicides. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Justice is on the front lines of this fight. We're standing shoulder to shoulder with all of our law enforcement partners to dismantle these narco-terrorists, and that's exactly what they are. They are narco-terrorists. El Mayo was one of the most prolific and powerful drug traffickers in this world. His partner was El Chapo. They were co-founders of the Sinaloa cartel. They brutally murdered multiple people and flooded our country with drugs. Their reign of terror is over. He will never walk free again. Over the last 3 decades, El Mayo and his accomplices made billions of dollars, hundreds of millions each year they were making by bringing poisonous drugs into our country. No longer. The Sinaloa cartel initially built their businesses with cocaine, but then under El Mayo's leadership, they turned to heroin, they turned to fentanyl. They purchased fentanyl precursor chemicals from China. They made the drug in Mexico and flooded it into our communities, killing our kids. El Mayo also ensured that the Sinaloa cartel operated and protected its drug trafficking business by relying on extreme violence. They used military-grade weapons and directed hitmen to kill their adversaries. They committed gruesome assassinations, kidnappings, and horrible crimes to maintain discipline within their own organization. He ordered the murders of countless individuals and rivals. Many innocent people died as a result of this as well. El Mayo operated with impunity at the highest levels of the Mexican drug trafficking world by paying bribes to government officials, by bribing law enforcement officers. He controlled corrupt officials and officers who protected his workers and his drug shipments that traveled from Mexico into our country. El Mayo's crimes have been so prolific that in the past 2 decades, he's been indicted in no fewer than 16 federal courts across our country. 16. From Western District of Texas to Chicago to here in the Eastern District of New York. He escaped justice for decades, but under President Trump's leadership, he has finally been brought to justice. Today's conviction is the latest success in the United States fight against deadly cartels and transnational criminal organizations. We've made remarkable progress. Just to give you a few examples, under President Trump's direction, the United States State Department designated the Sinaloa cartel, together with 5 other cartels and MS-13 and TDA, as foreign terrorist organizations due to the serious threat that they pose to our national security. As a result, the DOJ has already charged leaders of the Sinaloa cartel with narco-terrorism and charged alleged members with support and supporters of TDA, MS-13, and CJNG, currently one of the most violent cartels in Mexico. They provided material support to a terrorist organization. We are calling these drug kingpins what they are: international narco-terrorists that invade our country, threaten the sovereignty of our borders, and destroy our communities. They are terrorists, and we will prosecute them like they are terrorists. Since President Trump took office, Mexican authorities have expelled more than 50 high-ranking cartel leaders and other dangerous criminals to our country to face prosecution. More than 50. These are historic numbers that ensure that these criminals will face justice and face justice on American soil. We now have leaders from CJNG, Sinaloa, and Los Zetas in custody. Our prosecutors in the Criminal Division and the Northern District of Illinois obtained a guilty plea from Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of El Chapo, and another leader of the Sinaloa cartel, the co-founder. Just a few weeks ago, on August 14th, we announced criminal charges against 5 cartel leaders and high-ranking members of these united cartels. We will not rest until Americans are safe from these narco-terrorists. Thanks to our law enforcement officers, both here and in Mexico, who often put their lives on the line every single day to protect us and to get these violent leaders off the streets. We are not done yet. At President Trump's direction, we will continue to fight until every single cartel boss is behind bars and on American soil and in American prisons for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. As you've heard, a short time ago, Ismael Zambada Garcia, known as El Mayo, pled guilty here in the Eastern District of New York to being the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, the largest drug trafficking organization in the world. Among other things, he admitted to leading a continuing criminal enterprise and to RICO conspiracy charges. This is an historic day. With today's plea, the Sinaloa cartel has been decapitated. Its 2 founders and leaders, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, also known as El Chapo, and now El Mayo, both stand convicted. These defendants built a criminal empire in Sinaloa, Mexico. Their cartel grew like it was a cancer throughout the hemisphere. They flooded the United States with deadly drugs, including cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and then fentanyl. El Mayo was first indicted in the Eastern District of New York in 2009, and we continued to add charges, including, as the Attorney General mentioned, fentanyl trafficking, right up until this very year. As a result of his conviction, El Mayo faces a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. This conviction is also a testament to the unrelenting determination of the prosecutors and the law enforcement agents who would never stop seeking to bring El Mayo to justice. As our Attorney General has pointed out, the plea marks the conclusion of a decades-long effort by hardworking and dedicated public servants across the United States. I want to thank the prosecution team from the Eastern District of New York, Assistant United States Attorneys Francisco Navarro, Robert Pollack, Adam Amir, Lauren Bowman, and Rebecca Ercolay. In addition to the United States Attorney's Office in the Southern District of Florida and the United States Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas, both of whom are here with us today, I also want to acknowledge the important contributions of the U.S. Attorney's Offices for the Northern District of Illinois, the Southern District of California, and the Central District of California. I would also like to thank our American law enforcement partners at the FBI, Homeland Security, and the DEA, along with numerous other law enforcement agents throughout the government. I would also like to thank our counterparts in the Mexican government. Finally, I gratefully acknowledge the presence here today of Frank Tarantino from the DEA, Ricky Patel from Homeland Security, and Philip Bates from the FBI. I'm now going to ask Acting Assistant Attorney General Matthew Galeotti to say a few words.
Thank you, United States Attorney Nocella. Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Galeotti, and I'm the Acting Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division and a former Assistant United States Attorney here in the Eastern District of New York. Today marks another milestone in the Department of Justice's relentless efforts towards the total elimination of cartels. One of the most notorious narco-terrorists of all time, Ismael El Mayo Zambada, was convicted in a United States courtroom, having confessed to more than 3 decades of crime in service to the ruthless Sinaloa cartel. For decades, the Sinaloa cartel, under El Mayo's leadership, made billions of dollars by importing dangerous drugs to the United States, intensifying the drug epidemic in our communities by flooding our streets with cocaine, heroin, and ultimately fentanyl. Today, El Mayo admitted to crimes of a staggering scope, including leading a sprawling criminal enterprise that distributed more than 1.5 million kilograms of cocaine in addition to other drugs. He made corrupt payments to operate with impunity, and he protected Sinaloa's operations by ordering acts of extreme, heinous violence, leaving a trail of human suffering, including innocent victims, in his wake. Pursuant to his guilty plea, El Mayo will spend the rest of his life in prison and owes $15 billion in forfeiture to the United States. Results like this are not possible without the prosecutors and agents who have done an extraordinary job building the case piece by piece and seeing it through to completion. This is another significant result under Attorney General Bondi's leadership in the department's unparalleled drive to eliminate cartels. As part of that effort, we have seen more than 50 high-ranking cartel members expelled to face justice in American courtrooms, collectively one of the greatest takedowns in United States law enforcement history. Other leaders have been charged as foreign terrorist organization leaders, and members have been charged as well. We continue to pursue these individuals to make them see justice in a United States courtroom. As Acting Assistant Attorney General, I want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, and I'll briefly flag in particular trial attorneys Jace Bourne and Kirk Handrich, as well as all of the U.S. Attorney and law enforcement partners with us. The Attorney General has made clear that the department's goal is eradicating the harms caused by cartels in American communities. And the department is quickly making historic progress towards achieving just that. Thank you. It's my honor to introduce DEA Administrator Terry Cole. Thank you, Matt. Madam Attorney General, thank you for your law enforcement support. Thank you for the care and attention you've given to our police officers every single day. And thank you for your leadership. My name is Terry Cole. I'm the administrator of DEA. I'm a career 1811 criminal investigator with DEA. And when I joined this case years ago, we were sometimes told we were chasing shadows, legends of men who believed they were untouchable. One of those men was El Mayo. However, today, as you've heard, he stood in a U.S. courtroom and he said those words that change everything: guilty. This is just not another plea. It's a collapse of a myth that leaders of cartels are beyond the reach of American justice. Today, we prove once again no one is beyond our reach. I've seen firsthand the families who've lost sons, daughters, brothers, sisters to fentanyl, pushed by Sinaloa and El Mayo. When he admits guilt, it's not just words on a page, it is an acknowledgement of those lives stolen by his empire. This case was built brick by brick across continents. It began in 2020 at a targeting meeting that I attended here in New York. From there, the New York Field Division, the men and women standing to my right from all federal agencies, pursued relentlessly every single member of the Sinaloa cartel, along with our agents in Bogota, along with agents in Madrid, and our partners at HSI and the FBI, and our partners at EDNY and the other federal agencies, prosecutors that we've mentioned. Our agents just did not build a case. They carried the memories of U.S. citizens. Juan Carlos Garcia, who was murdered by the Sinaloa cartel in 2015. Every interview, every wiretap, every sleepless night was for justice. It was for justice for those families who have lost their kids to the Sinaloa cartel. Our global partnerships develop the ultimate blow. We did this by leaning on our powers of partnerships in New York, to Bogota, to Madrid, to Washington. We tore down walls between prosecutors, investigators, and analysts. We didn't care who got credit. The only thing we wanted was the truth. It's the same model we used when we took down Garcia Luna, when we took down Chapo, and as we continue to dismantle RCQ. It's a model of dismantlement of the cartels today. Dismantling cartels, we just didn't go after the drugs. We went after the decision makers, the financiers, the killers who directed violence with a single phone call. This is how we dismantle cartels at the highest level. Global cooperation. DEA is not just an American agency. It's the world's most trusted partner to fight against cartels in synthetic drugs. This case proves what happens when we work together as one. The illicit finance. These complex historical conspiracies are where DEA thrives, following the money, listening to cooperators, and turning intelligence into courtroom-packed truths. Every plea is more than a headline. It's one less pipeline of poison into our neighborhoods. It is one more life saved from a fentanyl overdose. I've stood in too many homes where parents and their children keep memories of those that are lost. Today's guilty plea doesn't bring those kids back, but it sends a message to the cartels to the world and to families who still grieve. DEA will not stop. We will hunt the heads of these organizations. We will tear apart their networks, and we will bring them to justice, one member at a time, by the men and women over to my right, the finest career law enforcement investigators in the world. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Attorney General. Administrator Cole, thank you for the remarks. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Gordon. I'm the Acting Executive Associate Director for Homeland Security Investigations. Today marks an historic day in pursuit of justice for the countless victims Zambota's regime of terror created. For over 30 years, he yielded unchecked power at the highest levels of the Mexican drug cartels and the trafficking world, leaving a legacy of corruption, violence, and devastation behind. Indicted 16 times over 2 decades, he continued a criminal enterprise that shamefully peddled death. Together with El Chapo, he transformed the Sinaloa cartel into one of the largest, most violent drug trafficking organizations in the world. Under his control, the cartel became synonymous with public corruption, the generation of billions of dollars from trafficking fentanyl, the unimaginable bloodshed, acts of outright terrorism that devastated communities and countless lives. Today, he stands defenseless because the relentless investigative efforts of HSI, FBI, DEA, and the Department of Justice. His guilty plea is not just a milestone in Americans' fight against the Sinaloa cartel. It's a victory for the victims whose lives were shattered by his ruthless regime. But we are far from finished. HSI special agents working alongside our law enforcement counterparts have dedicated decades to investigating foreign terrorist organizations for the sake of uncovering, disrupting, and ultimately dismantling them until they are completely wiped off the face of the earth by any means necessary. With today's victory, our fight continues with renewed fervency. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Chad Yarborough from the FBI.
Thank you, Derek. Well, good afternoon. My name is Chad Yarborough. I'm the Operations Director for the FBI, and I oversee our cartel efforts. Today's landmark guilty plea of Ismael El Mayo Zambada marks a significant step forward in our ongoing fight against transnational organized crime and the deadly narcotics trade that threatens communities across this country. The guilty plea is not only a win for our communities, but a testament to the FBI's commitment to crush violent crime, to target cartels and gang activity under Attorney General Bondi. I want to take a few minutes to highlight our partners' extensive efforts throughout this investigation. And I can't do that without mentioning our law enforcement partners at DEA and HSI and DOJ, who are working tirelessly together to disrupt and dismantle these violent criminal networks. This case is the result of that close collaboration and years of deliberate efforts by our partners and the FBI, both here and in Mexico. For decades, the Sinaloa cartel has been one of the primary drivers of illegal narcotics flowing into the United States. When this investigation began, our Washington, D.C. field office was able to identify with our partners the cartel's 2 main leaders, Zambada and Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. After Guzman's arrest in 2016, Zambada continued to lead the Mayo faction of the Sinaloa cartel, which was responsible for trafficking multi-ton quantities of cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl, which killed thousands and thousands of our citizens in the United States. And in 2024, the FBI and our partners here were able to arrest Zambada, which has led to this guilty plea today. Let me be clear. The guilty plea is not the end of this fight. The Sinaloa cartel may think that they're powerful and mighty, but rest assured, we are all up here because we have one goal in mind, and that is the destruction of the Sinaloa cartel. Now, I want the communities to know, not even the most senior leaders of this cartel and others can escape accountability. Let this be a message to all violent criminals and members of the cartels that the FBI, DEA, HSI, and DOJ will leverage everything we have, all of our resources and all of our expertise,
to bring these individuals to justice and safeguard our communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Madam Attorney General. Thank you for your leadership and your support. I'm Jason Redding Quinones, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. For more than 3 decades, Ismael and Mayo Zambada Garcia commanded one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world. Under his direction, the Sinaloa cartel used vast resources to bribe officials, intimidate rivals, torture their enemies, and murder witnesses, all to push poison in our community that ends today. With his guilty plea, Ed Mayo now faces a mandatory life sentence in federal prison. He will never again lead a cartel that fueled addiction, spread violence, and tore apart families on both sides of our border. Let me be clear to anyone who thinks they will take his place. We will find you. We will extradite you. We will prosecute you, and we will bring you to justice. I stand here shoulder to shoulder with our law enforcement partners, and I'm humbled by their extraordinary work. For years, agents and prosecutors quietly built this case, piece by piece, fact by fact, not for glory, but for justice. For justice for the thousands of victims left in the wake of El Mayo's reign of terror. Because of their courage, we are here today. I commend each of them. I especially recognize my Assistant United States Attorneys, Andrea Goldberg and Monique Botero, for their relentless pursuit of justice. It's now my honor to introduce the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas, Justin Simmons.
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Simmons. I am the United States Attorney for the Western District of Texas. I want to thank you, General Bondi, for your support. Thank President Trump as well for his support in this case and many other cases like it that we will continue to bring. They provided the resources and, again, the support that was needed to make a day like today happen. Ismael Zambada Garcia, in partnership with El Chapo Guzman, led the Sinaloa cartel for decades. In so doing, they brought millions of kilos of drugs into the United States. In so doing, they also imprisoned millions of Americans within the gray walls of addiction, millions of their own countrymen within the gray walls of violence and fear. Now, he will spend the rest of his life behind walls of stone and steel. The Western District of Texas was especially affected by the activities of the Sinaloa cartel. You see, Juarez and El Paso are connected. Thousands of people every day cross through the various points of entries that connect the two cities and the two countries. Thousands used to cross illegally every day between the two countries. That's not happening so much anymore. Juarez affects El Paso. And so in 2008, when the Sinaloa cartel started fighting with the Juarez cartel to take control of that area, 10,000 people were killed on the Mexican side. U.S. citizens, at least one U.S. citizen, was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. And stray gunfire being fired in Juarez came across to El Paso. So those things that were going on, that were the product of the Sinaloa cartel's desire to take over that area, directly affected people of the Western District and in El Paso in particular. So in April 2012, AUSAs in El Paso brought charges against El Mayo, Chapo, and 22 other members of the Sinaloa cartel. I want to take a moment to personally thank AUSA Tony Franco and AUSA Kyle Myers for their work on this case. One of those charges that he pled guilty to today was part of that indictment, part of that 2012 indictment. So this really has come full circle for us in the Western District of Texas as well. But really today's not about the Western District of Texas. It's not about the Eastern District of New York, the Southern District of Florida, or any other district. It's about the government of the people, by the people, and for the people delivering on a promise to eradicate Mexican drug cartels. That's what we're doing. And we're doing that so Americans can live freely, enjoy liberty, and pursue happiness. This is part of us delivering on that promise. And with that, I'll bring up Mr. Nocella once again.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming. That concludes our press announcement. There will be no further proceedings and there are no questions, but I ask that everybody please remain in your seats as our speakers exit the room. Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, we can take you all have stayed here all afternoon. Would be glad to take a couple questions. Sure. Wait, let me get him in the back of the room first. Go ahead. I'll take like 4 questions. Yeah, if you couldn't hear, you ask about following the money. Following the money is always part of any of these criminal cases. That's how we're able to track and find them. I mean, this guy El Mayo was living like a king, and now he's living like a criminal for the rest of his life. He was living in a palace, and now he's going to be in a prison. So following the money is how we solve these cases. Terry, do you want to add a couple words to that with DEA?
Absolutely. So thank you, Madam Attorney General. There is a large cash seizure associated with this forfeiture that we will get out here shortly. But more importantly, our work with the Mexican government is not done. Similar to what we did with RCQ that we brought to the United States, there are proceedings happening as we speak.
Hey, hang on. We'll just take a few questions. Sir, sitting right there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said the U.S. government should collaborate with Mexico to understand how the U.S.
Pam Bundy, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
What's your answer on that request?
Well, first we want to thank the Mexican authorities for all of their help in bringing all of these cartel leaders to justice. We're not going to comment on any of the specifics of any investigation, but we have brought, under Donald Trump's direction, we have brought more cartel leaders to justice than any other administration in this nation's history. Any other questions? Go ahead, Alana.
Why take the death penalty off the table?
So, Mexico, I've done this my entire career as a prosecutor. When dealing with Mexico, we cannot seek the death penalty. We've always known that, and that's an agreement that we've had with Mexico when we get them to our country. That includes many others. This guy's 78 years old, but he will live like he's on death row. I can tell you that. He will live in a prison cell the rest of his life. Yes, sir. One more.
The air bridge to come cocaine and drug to the United States. What about Honduras?
Yeah. He asked about the air bridge. Air bridge is a term that is common in law enforcement for how drug traffickers move their drugs from multiple countries, Venezuela, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, to our country. It's called an air bridge. And they pay off government officials, they pay people off, they pay off law enforcement officers in their countries to ignore that and to let them fly undetected. We're looking at all that. We're looking at that in multiple countries. Thank you all for being here, and thank you. Great question.
All right. Pam Bundy, attorney general, for sure, doing her best. And she's been getting really tangible results. I have to say DNI has been doing great work too, Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, so here is Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. And of course, I wouldn't expect him to come on Fox, but he did, which I commend him for. I want you guys to listen to this. This is a while ago, but I want us to listen to this.
Let's bring in Maryland Governor Wes Moore to the program. Good morning, Governor. Thanks so much for joining the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, Governor, I'm so glad you decided to come on the program. I know you care about your community, and I care about mine as well. And I'm hoping that we can get to some resolutions on how we can come together to make this happen. I want to bring you to one of your cities in your state, and you're a neighbor to Washington, D.C., and we know the actions that the president is taking right now. When you look at the numbers right now, the most dangerous cities list, Baltimore is on number 4 of that. And when it comes to the murders, it's number 3. Now, I know you have been surging resources to Baltimore, investing in the police there, but you don't like the actions that the president is taking right now. Why?
Well, you know, when I came in, I said that the number one priority that we had as administration was to make sure that our communities were safe. You know, before I became governor, for the 8 years before I became the governor, Baltimore City went 8 straight years of 300 plus homicides. The year before I became the governor, Baltimore City averaged about a homicide a day. And I said, I refuse to be a governor who's going to spend my time offering eulogies and giving thoughts and prayers, that we actually had needed to have resources and coordination that was going to help to fundamentally address the problem. As people of my state have learned, you know, I don't come from a political background. My background is I'm a soldier. And so what we did was we made historic investments in local law enforcement, that we invested over $50 million in the Baltimore City Police Department alone, that we made historic investments in technologies and predictive analytics, and saying if someone commits a violent crime, particularly with a firearm, I want them in handcuffs in 24 hours. And saying that we made historic investments in our community groups, working with the mayor, working with our county executives, working with the community groups and our violence intervention and violence interruption groups, to making sure we can stop crime before it happens and making sure we don't have this retaliatory cycle of violence. And while I know that we still have more work to do, I also know this, is that despite the fact that the year before I became the governor, Baltimore City, again, had a historic streak in violence, that now that the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. So we're making real progress, where Maryland is now amongst the fastest dropping states in this country on violent crime. There's ways you can do this, and you have to be able to make sure you're using the right tool to get to the right result.
You know, Mr. Governor, you're right, y'all have made progress, but there's still some issues there. And this is a resident, and this is what they said in the Baltimore Sun. A 77-year-old woman from Curtis Bay who asked to remain anonymous due to threat levels she's received from drug dealers on her block compared the morning drug traffic to a fast food drive-thru when a real estate agent assessed her property about a month ago and a half. She said that the agent told her he can't sell this house with that, referring to the 10 or 12 people involved in the drug market, loitering across the street. I'm going to get hurt one day. I know I am, she said. But the mayor responded this way, Governor.
I'm sure you read the article in the Baltimore Sun yesterday talking about how so many Baltimore residents don't recognize their neighborhoods anymore. What do you say to those residents of Baltimore who may think that citing falling crime statistics glosses over some of the harsher day-to-day realities and needs that they have to their lives in Baltimore, need for things to change even further in terms of just regular drug trafficking?
Yeah, so we're only having that discussion because the president is having that discussion. And this, I want to be very clear. I didn't read the Baltimore Sun article. I don't read it because they're a part of the president's propaganda machine.
So, Mr. Governor, I know people go back and forth in the politics and Donald Trump and all this, but this is what the locals are saying. This is not some partisan thing.
Well, I mean, my heart breaks for that woman in Curtis Bay. And it breaks for anyone who does not feel safe in their own neighborhoods and in their own communities anywhere in the state of Maryland. And I think the people of the state of Maryland know and have seen through our actions that the number one priority that we have is making sure that people can feel safe in their own neighborhoods, in their own communities, and in their own skin. That we're making sure that people who commit crimes, that they are held accountable for the crimes that they commit, but also that we're improving better systems that are making sure that they are also accountable to actually focusing on rehabilitation and helping people get back into the community with a real pathway for long-term success. And so whether it's a person in Curtis Bay or whether it's a person in Catonsville, they know that their governor is prioritizing their safety.
Pardon my interruption, Governor, but the people of D.C. feel the same way. The people of Philly feel the same way. I'm just curious why you've been so critical of the administration trying to solve this problem. Is it the process that you don't like? Because it looks like they're doing the same thing that you're doing, which is surging resources to the city.
It's because I'm proud to be the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland, and I'm honored to be the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. I stand with the remarkable men and women who have raised their hand, these citizen soldiers, who frankly are trained to fight and win our nation's wars. The people who, in times of emergency and in times of crisis, that I have the unique authority and the unique ability to mobilize them, and where I have done so as the governor of the state of Maryland, whether it is historic floods that we've seen in Western Maryland, or whether it's the fact that I still currently, right now, have men and women who are deployed overseas doing operations. This is something that I take very seriously, particularly as someone who's worn the uniform, particularly as someone who's had to say goodbye to my family, particularly as someone who has had to trust the judgment of the commander-in-chief, knowing that the decision that they made was one that had not just the best interests of the national security in mind, but the best interests of me and my family. And so all I'm saying is this, is if we want to have a serious conversation about violent crime, we can have a serious conversation about violent crime. And I would love to be able to share the multitude of things that we are doing in the state of Maryland, where we are surging support for local law enforcement, surging support for predictive analytics and technologies, surging supports for community groups, and allowing more supports for the mayor and the county executive and the people on the ground doing the work. And we were able to receive some really encouraging and historic results in Baltimore and around the state of Maryland. And I never once had to mobilize the National Guard in order to accomplish those feats.
Governor, it's a different war now. There's more brothers dying here in these cities than overseas. So isn't it fair to have them there? And it's Democrats that agree with this measure. Don't take my word for it. The local cop there, the police chief, agrees with this. The mayor of the city agrees with this. And it's because people that look like me and you are dying.
No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities. No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities, urban, rural, and suburban, who are being besieged by this issue of gun violence, who's being besieged by this issue of chronically and generationally not feeling safe inside of your neighborhoods. And it's the reason that we have made it our top priority to make sure that people are feeling safe. But I can tell you right now, what people want more than anything in those communities is they don't want performative, they want performance, right? They're not looking for someone to walk around with military fatigues and a big gun. They're looking for someone who actually understands how to make people feel safe and how to make people actually safe in their communities. Our National Guards are not trained for this. I'm very specific about my role as Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard, and we know the missions that they are trained for, and municipal policing is not one of them.
So I'll tell you
and so
this.
if we want to be serious about making people safe, let's actually do the things that make people safe.
I'm way over time, Governor. I'll do two things. I would ask you, this is going to be only for 30 days until Congress gets involved. So let's see the results. If the results are true, then we stay with it. But I would also ask you, can I come to Baltimore with you? I want to visit the community with you. I've been there many times. We'll walk the block together and we'll figure out all the programs that you have suggested. I would love to meet all of them. But I also want to see the metrics as well. I want the impact to be there, and I hope you'll take me up on that offer.
I would be honored to take you up on that offer. We are walking our streets all over the state all the time, and I also know that when you look at the cost of this National Guard deployment, we also have to understand there's a real cost to it, not just a financial cost, but also an opportunity cost, because when we have real tragedies and real disasters that our National Guard has to respond to, they're not going to be able to because they are currently doing municipal policing operations, and that's not right.
I got to go, Governor, but there's a disaster happening right now. And we got to focus on the crisis right now. All right, brother. I'll see you soon. Governor, I appreciate the time.
All right.
And with that being said, this is what it should be about. Intellectual conversations that affect the American people, whether you are a blue-blooded Democrat or you are a full-time red-blooded Republican, it really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, both parties are Americans, okay? So, party aside, all right? This is America. Everybody wants, well, not everybody wants the same thing, but deep down, deep down at your core, you want safety. You want high-paying jobs. You want, um, you want to have affordability. So everybody wants that. All right. So this isn't a bipartisan issue. Everybody needs to come on board and unite to make America great again and forever. All right. I truly believe this is the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and God made it so. That is my personal opinion. You can have yours. You don't have to believe my opinions because God gave everybody a choice. You can have yours, I can have mine. I can talk about mine, you can talk about yours. That's why we have to chat. So, with that being said, God is the greatest. Thank you guys for being here. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself, never give up on your dreams, never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in Almighty God. God is the greatest. Um, I have to give a shout out to law enforcement officers. I have to give a shout out to Ice 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 Baby. All right. I also have to give a shout out to the firemen, the teachers, the essential workers like the nurse and doctors. Uh, I also have to give a shout out to the military personnel, the veterans. Thank you for your service. God bless you. Without you, there would be no homeland. I also have to give a shout out to the fathers doing an amazing job, going out there working extra hours to provide for your family, um, to be a responsible man in the society. Thank you so much. It's not easy, but you do it anyway. God bless you. Of course, shout out to the mothers as well. You women are just absolutely incredible. You have been doing an incredible job from the gate. All right. Shout out to the grandmas and the grandpas as well. I also have to give a big, 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 awesome, huge shout out to our esteemed members. Dr. Luke, the GOAT, God bless you. Thank you so much for being here. And also, I saw the short you uploaded, tunes. I said tunes. Tunes. Keep the shorts coming, Porter Music. God bless you, Porter Music. All right, I gotta give a shout out to his wife, Mrs. Goat, Flora Love. God bless you for being an esteemed member as well. And keep the video recordings going for Porter Music. God bless you. I gotta give a shout out to Ellie of Chicago. Some people call it Chirac. I mean, who knows? But, however, okay, the commander in chief may be sending the National Guard to Chicago, hopefully, to turn it around from being Chirac to the holy Chicago. All right. And also, I got to give a shout out to CRXR. God bless you. Thank you so much, CRXR. God bless you. I also got to give a shout out to Ringmaster. God bless you. I got to give a shout out to a veteran, and she is a member of this channel, Sandra. God bless you, Sandra. I also have to, also, Sandra, thank you for your service. I also have to give a shout out to Ingram and the Ringmaster. God bless you guys so much. All right. Now, shout out to our moderators. All right. Good Genes. Good Genes, C. Shelley. God bless you. Now you can get your beauty sleep. Terry, by my girl, Roll Tide. God bless you. MVP Jet. God bless you. Who else? Mr. Busky, he's probably helping his kid. Is probably helping his kid get together. Okay, so shout out to Mr. Busky. He's not here lately, but I know it's for good reasons. Shout out to Corey B. I don't think I saw him here. Enders. God bless you, Enders, as well. Everybody. Who else? Who else am I missing? If I didn't call your name, I don't know. What's your Put your name in the comment section. Okay, I might give you a shout out. Shout out to Jade here, or Jade. I'm just gonna say Jade. Shout out to Jade. God bless you, Jade. Thank you for being here as well. Everybody, you guys are awesome. God bless you guys. Don't forget, be nice, be kind. You just never know what people are going through. Some people are going through, mental issues, like we just saw the guy in Minneapolis. A lot is going on here. Okay. Most people just walk around, go to work, come back home, and you think everything is fine. Sometimes, most likely, it's not fine. All right. So, this right here, a lot are going through up here. So, be kind to people, be nice, put a smile on your face, uplift people, say positive words, don't be negative. Anxiety, depression, loneliness, grief, all of this stuff is going on in a lot of people's lives. So be kind, go outside, make friends, don't just sit inside all day. All right. And be nice to your neighbors. Also, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It is country before party. So it's America first before your respective parties. So that I had to say, because some people think it's being Democrat first or being Republican first. No, it's being an American first. All right. God bless you guys. And it is your boy, Genesis. You are currently tuned into the Genesis Show. And I am honored to do this with you guys. I do this because I love the United States. And I am grateful to the United States. And this has been a journey of my life. And I'm just blessed to be in America. And I hope you feel the same way. Okay, I hope you feel the same way, and you realize how much of a blessing you have been given to be born in the United States by God. All right? Thank you so much. We're going to be back. You guys are awesome. Stay strong. God is your strength. No matter what you're going through, God got your back. It is no. It is 5:01 a.m. here in Georgia, and today's date is the 28th of August 2025. I love you guys. Stay strong. God is the greatest. God bless America. See you soon.